Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What's the deal, Panther fans? Back with another episode of the C3 Panthers Podcast. That's the longest running Panthers podcast on the intranet. And tonight's show, Panthers training camp begins. The players have arrived at Wofford in Spartanburg, in the hottest part of the world at this moment for us, and the talk is going to be hot today as we preview training camp, but talk about the latest stories and news and opinions from the fan perspective regarding the Carolina Panthers. Got a lot to talk about, from Scott Fitterer wanting to add some members to the defense, to Christian McCaffrey feeling the best he is, and the biggest Baker bottom in the world, Sam Darnold, addresses the media and says, we're cool. Him and Baker are cool. And guess who else is cool? My co-host, the producer of this show, Cody Lashney. Welcome back to the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Tony Dunn, you know what's cool? Panthers are back to training for playing football, baby. That's what's cool, man. Look, the season is fast approaching. There's so much to talk about seemingly all the time. We have a bunch of clips that I find very fascinating, from Matt Rhule to Matt Corral to Scott Fitterer. Tony, you name it, we got it tonight. And you think I'm cool. Dude, I ain't got nothing on these dudes and chicks in the YouTube chat that are the coolest of the cool. You know them and love them, and the list grows every week. Our man Drew, Alex Starks, Andrew Fields, ATX19, Hemlock, Jay Issue, Keith Montez, Kyle Cottrell, KV7 Trees, Lawrence Trevette, Logan Woods, Lynn Leonhardt. What's up, Lynn? Off Grid, Panther Pickle, Poppin' Bullets, Ted Seams, Wide Big Jordan, William Taylor, and Zach Attack. Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
It's called the C3 Panthers Podcast, and you can check us out on carolinacatchronicles.com, where we bring you the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Greg, the Bat Daddy, the Stat Daddy in the house, thanks for the new intro. Still getting a lot of good reception in the chat room. Mute. Yeah,
I forget to do that at the intro. I'm still tickled every time I see it, man. It's fun. And Cody, you're right, dude. Football season's here, buddy. It's news ramping up. Stuff actually starting to mean something. Seeing stuff that we've seen or heard rumors before actually coming true, or maybe, becoming false. It's exciting, man. I can't help but this time of year, every year, think about, man, what if the Panthers do this? What if the Panthers do that? And I feel like, for some reason, like I do every year, we're going to be good. Don't know why. I just feel like we're going to be good. I do this every season to myself, every single season.
It's the time of half a glass full, right? It's like it's the beginning. You're undefeated right now. There are no injuries at this moment that we know of that are pressing. Well, maybe a little Shaq Thompson on the pup list, got a little knee clean out, but he was walking into training camp carrying his own bags. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is the time for optimism. We appreciate that, folks. We appreciate if you be a part of the show by calling in at 252-228-5098. Subscribe to the podcast and participate in the chat. One thing you can do is go to carolinacatchronicles.com and find out that today, I just put up a story, Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed Carolina killer Julio Jones, and about 9:45 tonight, we're going to have Gene Thomas from Buck What You Heard come on for a short little time and talk about the meaning of this all-in move to get Tom Brady the bling bling. But as soon as I see Julio as a Carolina killer, CK, and then I put this story out and everybody goes, oh, he don't play. He needs check the oil. One of my friends said, check the oil in that hoopty, man, because he is broke down now. I know, Julio's always missed a ton of games, though, so it's not even that new. It's just he destroys the Panthers. But, CK, welcome back to the show. Just when Greg is getting optimistic, the Bucs are reloading.
Bro, yeah, it's listen, it's it's tough to look at that and think that we have a shot against what that team has been. The good news is we only have to face them for 2 of our 17 games. There's still, still a tough road ahead with the other 15. But I tell you what, right now, it's just all optimism with what we have going on with the team, what the pieces that we've added, the potential for some of these guys that quarterback to possibly come in here and compete for a position that has been largely in flux for the past 5 years, really. It's going to be hopefully a season of redemption. And maybe, as Scott Fitter has said in his press conferences, maybe this will start to resemble a very Seahawks-esque rise the Panthers will be seeing. So,
we like to hear that. The number is 252-228-5098. You can be a part of the show. We'll be talking about training camp, obviously. We got the ice up picks coming later. And some fun things to talk about. Cody, what do we got first on the docket? The players arrived today, so this was great. I mean, they haven't started spinning it yet. There's no thudding yet. We ready, though. And we can smell the football getting closer. They're at least pulling the footballs out of the boxes, out of storage or whatever. But we're watching Baker Mayfield and Shaq Thompson carpool together in what Shaq Thompson has described as a top-tier chauffeur, 5-star. He got 5-star Uber review from Baker Mayfield. Christian McCaffrey's told us that he feels as good as he's ever felt. And you're starting to see some of the young guns. I tell you this, and I want you to pick the first topic, but I want to put this out to the chat, is I saw YGM, Yatur Gross-Matos, walking beside Davion Nixon, Big Snack, and Gross-Matos made it look bigger than him, dude. Like, I mean, and not like heavy big, but like I was like, a guy whose nickname is Big Snack, and you don't look small beside him, you a big boy. Gross-Matos look legit, dude. This is the guy I want. This is who I'm hoping for. Be a breakout candidate this year, even though I think next year is the year. What do you want to start with, Cody?
I mean, listen, there's so much to start with, but what's been on the front of everyone's mind has been the quarterback competition. Mm-hmm. And I actually want to start by saying I didn't completely hate this Matt Rhule press conference. Dare I say, I even liked it. I even felt like he had some good things to say. And based on some of the things that he said, I find that a few of us are going to have some controversial opinions about what Matt Rhule has to say. But let's just jump into it. This is Matt Rhule talking about the quarterback competition. And basically he's saying it's not his job to decide. I'll let him tell you.
He's been very clear with me that that's not his approach. I want us to be a competitive team. I mean, I talk about competition all the time. I mean, you got to fight for what you want. Again, my job is not to pick the starting quarterback. I have to make that decision, but it's the guys play. So, Russell Wilson walked into a situation in Seattle with, Matt Flynn, who had just had a guaranteed contract, and Charlie Whitehurst, they just traded for, and he won the job. So I want competition. The best player will play.
He wants competition. The best player will play. Now, a lot of us haven't really believed this when we've heard it. But, man, this has got me feeling some kind of way, man. I don't know. Greg, what say you, man?
Well, I just want to ask, when he was talking about that, he says, it's not mine to pick. It's my decision, but it's not mine. So does that mean that somebody tells me who's going to be the starter and I'm just the one who says it?
That has
declares it?
No, that has more to do with the fact what he's saying is that it's going to be up to the players to make his decision for him. Basically, he's saying that Sam Darnold needs to make himself above and beyond the starter so that Matt Rhule has no say in who's the starter. So ultimately, it's just a coach's way of saying it's a coach's way of saying I come out here and compete and make it hard for me to make a decision that's not you.
It was almost poorly said in a way, and not like poorly said as in like it was just like unintelligible. But when he says it's not my job to pick, is really he's saying it's not my job to decide this. And then he said, but it is my job to decide. He really means it is. It's like they're the ones that are going to decide this, not me. It's my job to identify the guy who wins this job, or at least to be the final stamp of approval. What he's just trying to say is that was a one way of saying let the best man win the job, which also is not Sam Darnold. And I've just decided this is that Cody Lashney on this show has screamed so loudly for the last few weeks, and he likes to do this one thing. He loves to do this to people. He'll be like, what can this dude do that the other dude can't? And I will tell you that the difference, and I have said this in past shows, the difference is not physical. It's not a physical attribute at this. It is a confidence. It is the bravado, the mental fortitude. That, and I haven't seen it necessarily with Baker. I mean, even though he looks cool, calm, and collected, and happy and confident, but Darnold looks like a deer in a headlights. He just looks kind of dead behind the eyes in a certain way. And to me, I think that Sam Darnold is the biggest Baker bottom of them all, Cody.
Oh, wow. So listen, part of the reason why I love this, and again, this is if we can take Matt Rhule at face value and assume that he is telling the truth, that there is an open, active quarterback competition for these men to undergo, and that truly the best player will play. Well, listen, you all know what my feelings on the quarterback room is. I think there's a guy who has a much higher ceiling than everyone else. His name is Matt Corral, and I'm here to tell you that Matt Corral is not looking to be a backup this year. I'll let you hear from him first.
I'm just going to put my best foot forward and let the cards fall where they fall.
Has Coach given you an idea yet what type of reps, how the reps are going to be split? No, I just know that my mentality never changed, and I know that, the coaches didn't want that to happen. And, I feel like I'm in a good spot right now.
When you say your mentality never changed, can you expound upon that?
Like I said, I'm going to put my best foot forward. I'm going to try to compete and get the starting job by any means necessary. And, like I said, whatever that takes, I'm going to do. And, like I said, wherever the cards fall, let them fall where they fall.
So you heard it here first, man. Matt Corral, he has been living in his playbook. He went on to say that during his interview. He also said that, or Matt Rhule said of Matt Corral, that when they were still in Charlotte, he went into the weight room and saw Matt Corral putting in work, getting ready.
His neck looked a little thicker, didn't it?
I noticed the same thing, dude. His neck is looking beefy, man. So this is my question that I have to all of you wonderful gentlemen on the panel and to everyone in our chat room. Is this a real competition, or is this just Baker Mayfield's job just to walk right into and for him to get the storyline of playing his former football team, the Cleveland Browns, week 1?
I think this is a television show, like I've always put out there. I think that it's not a competition at all. It's just made to be a competition to give stories to write about. But I think you don't sign Baker Mayfield without starting him this year. Maybe he's not day one, but I don't see Corral starting this year without injury. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. He may be the best of the three, and unless he can prove that, then we won't get a chance to see it. But I just don't think you sign Baker Mayfield without that, especially the hype. The opportunity of him to come back to a team like Carolina and rebuild them into a franchise is too big of an NFL story. It's something they eat up, So I think, once again, I think some of the calls go in the favor of things that way. We'll see what happens when the season plays out. But I think that you don't sign Baker Mayfield without starting him.
What, the conversation just remains the same. It's remained the same for the last 3-4 weeks at this point. Really, since Baker got here, is that at the end of the day, it's Baker's job to lose. Right. It's Baker's job to lose. If it is a real competition, then Matt Corral actually would have a chance to win it. right? I mean, like,
Yes.
is that in theory? I don't think it truly is a real competition.
Right.
But I do believe this is I like what my man's saying. He's coming in. Now you almost want to say this is this him being naive and overly like kind of letting the swag out a little bit too
You
much?
mean Matt Corral?
Right. Or is it like confidence? And I mean, I know, and you know what I'm saying is this is it's not an either or necessarily, but some things are confidence and arrogance is a fine line, right? It's like you go, I mean, it's just from one little nick to the other that it becomes the other one. But what I mean by this is this a rookie that hasn't been through a training camp yet, hasn't kind of seen the back room of the NFL, seen the business side of it, much like us from an outsider looking in? Or is this a guy that is coming in and is very confident, believes he can win? And the reason I ask that is because Sam Darnold is the exact opposite of what that conversation is. In fact, can you play the clip when they asked Sam Darnold about Baker Mayfield and how they were getting along? And what I want to ask is at the same time, is Darnold being diplomatic and cautious and understanding the real nature of the situation, or is he mentally a Baker bottom? You know, I mean, and it's close. It's close. We'll see.
Me and Baker are cool. You know, I'm sure, you know, competing and, you know, when things start rolling in training camp, you know, it's just going to be fun. You know, we're going to be able to compete and have fun with it. But at the end of the day, you know, this is a business, and we both take our craft and what we do very seriously. So it's going to be very serious when that time comes to compete, but off the field and all that stuff, me and Baker are really cool.
So is that attitude, right? That comment right there, is that him, you know, basically saying like, hey, I don't want to come in here and step my bounds. Like, he didn't come in and say, I'm going to try to win this. He's like, it's going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be fun when I hold the clipboard and lose the job. It's going to be fun. Is that him being diplomatic, or is he just not enough dog?
I kind of think it's both of those things. You know, Lynn says Sam is being PC, and I kind of agree. I kind of think Sam is one of those quarterbacks that he's trained very well from a media perspective. Normally, he doesn't put his foot in his mouth too much. He generally says the right things. And I think Sam Darnold is kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because there's really no way that he isn't going to come off wrong. If he comes out and says, hey, I'm going to compete for the starting job and really try and win this thing, yeah, maybe some people would like to hear that from him. But we also know there's a whole nother portion of the fan base that's like, this guy, come on.
They're going to say that anyway, though.
For anything. But that's my point, though. But he really is kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. There are no good answers for Sam Darnold to actually give.
Well,
and
go
ahead.
There's one thing to consider, and I think he actually said this at one point during his press conference. He doesn't have the right to be upset, right? Yeah. He doesn't have the right to throw a fit. Like, he's not in a position. Baker, he had an argument, right? When he was being kind of when they were courting Deshaun Watson the way that they were, Baker has a bit of a complaint, right? He has done things for that organization no other quarterback has done. Sam Darnold has hit and miss with two different organizations, two different coaching staffs, two different styles of players and way offenses are run, things like he has struck out twice. Now, that is where I kind of respect what he's saying here, which is like, listen, I can only do what I can do, right? At this point in time, I think there is a value in that. And I think there is a reality and almost maybe even an acceptance of Sam. Like, listen, I'm going to fight for that starting position, but I have no ability to sit here and say I deserve it until I do.
And to be fair, at the same time, all he really said was the same thing Baker Mayfield said. He just said it a little more passively than Mayfield did. Mayfield said it with a little more, like balls behind it. But he basically just said, we're going to have fun in this competition. I feel like him saying competition is kind of giving up the fact that I'm the starter and you're the guy that has to overcome me. I feel like he should come in saying he's the starter because you are the starter and it's technically your spot to lose. But I don't feel like he has that mentality.
I would just say this. I mean, I don't even need him to say he's the starter. Is that I'm going to go out there is like, I know that I've faced challenges in my career with the Jets. I was drafted high, had some tough situation there, replaced by another high draft pick player, came in here and competed. And look, is that every day I'm going to go out there to earn mine and not just live off of my draft pick or something. And it just, to me, and I know, Cody, what you're saying is there isn't a right answer. I don't need a right or wrong answer. I'm just trying to find any little clue and insight into the psychology of how these guys are approaching it. So we look at Matt Corral, who is that youthful optimism, or is it a naive perspective that he's going to go in there and even have a shot? Is Sam Darnold's position one that is like a beaten, battered, domestic, violent, beat up, like Amber Heard got a hold of him on the way? Or is he being PC, diplomatic, and cautious? And it wavers. Like, I think CK brought up a good one, because with the question that he responded to, what CK was talking about, they asked him if he thought about demanding a trade. And that's kind of funny, because that might have been the best answer he gave. It was because he's like, dude, nobody wants to trade for me, motherfucker. Like, how am I going to demand a trade? You see what's going on with Jimmy G over there? You remember when they told Cam Newton that? I always love this. When the news breaks and you hear a headline that a team gives the player permission to seek a trade, they're like this: we're so fucking done with you, we don't even want to do the legwork. Just go find a deal and get it for us and we'll approve it. Right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Matt Rhule even spoke a little bit about this competition. And let's be real, guys. Like, there really is not another quarterback competition in all the NFL quite like the one we have going on here with the Carolina Panthers this year.
What about Trubisky?
No, but even that, like, they have a young guy. But, I mean, the fact that we had 3 different guys that all of our coaches at one point or another have felt were starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's continue with Matt Rhule talking about when he will know who the best quarterback for the job is.
He's been very clear with me that that's not his approach.
Oh, wrong slip.
Same. I want to like Matt. I won't say I want to like Matt Rhule, but I want every moment for me to not just look at him negatively.
To me, this press conference went a long way in doing that. I'll be honest with you. And I'll expand on it a little bit further, and I'll play some more clips. But this is a clip I intended to play. Oh, now I have to unmute the thing.
Has he lost some weight?
Yes, he has.
I think
People
he
have
did
also
say that.
been commenting on his weight loss. So shout out to Matt.
I'd love to have it before the Cleveland game. I think anytime you put timelines on things, you end up rushing to make bad decisions. To me, this is about very much being in the moment, but not making rash judgments. Some guys are gonna have good days, some guys are gonna have bad days. We'll have our 53 cut. Whenever we know, we're not gonna play games with it. When we kind of know, hey, this is our guy, we'll do it. But most teams in the NFL start 2 quarterbacks throughout the course of the year. So to me, it's our job to not just pick a starting quarterback. It's to make sure that we have 4 guys that can go in and win for us. So when we know, we'll know.
4.
So what did you make of that last part? The 2 quarterbacks. I didn't take that to mean like a dual quarterback system, which is what we did last year.
Yeah.
But I think he meant like maybe
injuries
late in
happen.
Games. Yeah, injuries happens, but maybe late in the game, late in the year, maybe you're trying to rush players. He hasn't done that yet, but I
think he means this is that there is like, it's kind of like saying like there's a real chance that Christian McCaffrey is not going to play the whole season, right? There's a real chance that your quarterback might have to miss a game or 2 or 3, and you got to be able to win in those moments. That's what I interpret that is. But then my man went and said 4. What do you mean 4? We know who the quarterbacks are, fools. Like, if you don't know, if it's not Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Matt Corral, it better not be Sam Darnold, Matt Corral, and PJ.
Right.
Or Baker Mayfield, Sam. You know what I'm saying? Like, either Sam Darnold is on this team or he isn't. PJ, sorry, your time is like, if you need to win a game and you can't win it with your 3rd round pick. Sorry, I'm sorry. Is that, look, if there's 3 quarterbacks started or kept on this roster, it better be Mayfield, Darnold, and Corral. Because if it's any other 3, I'm gonna be so mad.
Can I ask, for that clip, when we were walking into that clip, it sounded like he was being asked a question. We were getting the tail end of that. And he said, I'd love to know before the Cleveland game. Was he
have him available?
Was he talking about Baker Mayfield? Because if he was, then that's a said, done, and deal right there. We know Baker Mayfield's his starting quarterback then.
No. So basically what he was asked is, because remember, he said earlier, I'm not going to decide who the quarterback is. The competition's going to decide, or basically, right? So then he was then asked a follow-up, well, when do you think you'll know when the starter is, and when would you like to know? And then that's when he kind of jokingly says, well, ideally before the Cleveland game. Okay. You're kind of being like hand and fist about it a little bit, but it really does feel like he is doubling down. And again, maybe I'm biased. Somebody already called me out in the chat saying that I only like this because he's giving Matt Corral a shot. And that's 100% the truth. Maybe that's why I want to believe this. But listen, I mean, Tony, we've talked about chip on the shoulder a lot. And really, if you look at all 3 of these gentlemen, there is no reason why all 3 of them should not have the biggest chip on their shoulder that they have ever had in their career. Baker Mayfield is trying to prove that he was worth that 1st overall pick, and that the Browns did a terrible thing in trading him away for a sex offender. Sam Darnold is one more bad season away from being a perennial backup the rest of his career. If this man really has aspirations on being a franchise quarterback, this is quite literally his moment to do so, when the head coach is telling everyone that there is a legit quarterback competition here in Carolina. Then you go to Matt Corral, and you think about Matt, right? He's been having to listen to everyone talk about, oh, this is a quarterback competition between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and Matt Corral is just a 3rd round pick. Meanwhile, he was going to be a much higher pick if he hadn't gotten injured in that bowl game against Baylor. And then on top of that,
how much higher?
He would have been higher than the 3rd. That was the biggest concern about Matt Corral, was his injury that he sustained, or at least it was one of them. So you look at that, that is the recipe for 3 young men who should come out with their souls on fire to win this starting job. And if their head coach is telling them that they have the opportunity to do so, Matt Rhule goes on later to kind of say how this is permeating the entire roster. And I love it. I think this is going to be a great thing for our training camp this year, for us to monitor and keep an eye on.
Soul's on fire. When I listen to Sam Darnold talk, I go, man, that man's soul is on fire, dude. Good Lord. So anyway, all right, let's keep going. I think this is, to me, Baker's got he's like the dude that's been there before.
Right.
I got my first question. If we could pull that clip up of him showing up with Shaq Thompson, him and Shaq Thompson carpooled together in Shaq's big ass Ford truck, which is a Ford. It's not a F-150. It's like a Prowler or something. Somebody put it up, a Predator, Ford Predator or something like that. So pretty. And I'm not a Ford guy. I'm a Chevy guy, but it was a badass truck. And
is this an indication of the fact that he is, like, number one, for whatever reason, Matt Rhule is absolutely in love with Shaq Thompson as a leader on this team. Like, he cannot go a press conference without mentioning Shaq at least 5 times, right? At least that's how it's been the last, 2 or 3 different press conferences he's done. Well, number one, that part. Now, do you take anything from it that Baker Mayfield, who is wanting to be the leader of the offense, is riding to training camp with the, I guess you would say, leader of the defense and
the most established player on the team, arguably, other than J.J. Jansen.
Right. Yeah. So is there anything to glean from that, or do you think that's just grasping at straws at this point in time?
No, I think is that we could make too much out of it, but I think you're right.
Right.
Yeah, how about this is like is that if they didn't ride together, we wouldn't have any reason to believe that.
Right.
Is that like, I mean, this is the longest tenured player, I think, on the team outside of J.J. Jansen. There might be one other player. I doubt it. I don't even know if there's anybody on the team longer tenured than Shaq Thompson. And you're talking about a quarterback. It's not a statement of neutrality entirely. It might not be like an endorsement of Mayfield, right, but it certainly isn't a non-endorsement. Shaq is not staying out of the fray by taking him. And if anything, I did maybe mistake when I said that Baker Mayfield looks like he's been here. He ain't ever been to Wofford. This man came with just a book bag. Everybody else pulling out multiple damn suitcases and shit. Mm-hmm. Baker Mayfield comes up there with a book bag, and he's like, "Oh, you mean we got to stay in a dorm?"
He's 5 class. He's 5 stars. That's what it is. It's not class, man. You get a blanket everywhere. He's 5 stars.
So yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with CK. Like, I don't necessarily see this as him trying to. I kind of more look at this as Matt Rhule is saying that for a reason, because Shaq Thompson really is a very clearly defined leader on this football team. By the way, he was drafted in 2015. Is he, other than J.J. Jansen, he's the longest tenured Panther player. Am I right on that?
I mean, I can't think of anybody else. Yeah. I think it is.
So I mean, I could very easily see this being a situation where maybe he reached out to Baker and said, "Hey, man, you're new to the team. Why don't we ride together? Why don't I just bring you down there and we'll go together?" I could very easily see that being something that happened as well. Listen, I've kind of made my opinion known on Baker. Until he fails me or proves me wrong, whatever one, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, all these guys are coming in to compete. And, regardless of Matt Rhule's history, I'm going to take him at his word that there is a real quarterback competition to be had. And if Baker Mayfield comes out on top of that, well, then I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield. He still has to show me that he's capable of doing it. But damn it, that's my Panthers quarterback. If that's my Panthers quarterback, so I'm ready to kind of reset on Baker Mayfield, if you will. Maybe stop being such a complete Debbie Downer about the guy, and give him an opportunity to win me over. I think, and maybe other people as well. But I'm still on Team Matt Corral. Not off the hill. I mean, I'm still clutching my Matt Corral flag pretty tight. But I don't know. We'll see.
All right. So I want you guys to think. Let's go ahead and jump into a couple of cat calls before our guest Gene comes on. We got still a ton to talk about tonight regarding this training camp that begins tomorrow. And at 9:45, I have to double check and make sure I haven't confirmed it with him. Let me see. I sent him the link. So I'm hoping 9:45, Gene Thomas from Buck What You Heard comes and talks a little bit about what's going on in Tampa as they signed Julio Jones today. Their camp is probably opening up. And on top of that, the Antonio Brown rap video or rap concert. So cool. I can't wait to hear his thoughts on that. But let's go ahead and take a couple of calls. The number is 252-228-5098. Go ahead and fire it off, Cody.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
What's up, T3? Part 2.
Oh, part 2.
Just gonna kind of explain this the best I can. So I think I should explain why I'm so high on Baker. Well, one, I've been following him since Oklahoma, and once he kicked our ass rookie season, I was like, damn, this kid's got some talent. And I don't care what anyone says. You do not build a team in 1 year after going 1-31. Baker is actually better when he's back against the wall, when he has to prove something. I've talked to actually many people, gone on many Twitter spaces with people that do believe in Baker like I do, and we all say the same thing. If Zach is against the wall, I mean, the receivers he's going to be playing with are far better than the Cleveland receivers. I am telling you right now. You watch this year, I guarantee we have more wins than the Browns. I'm calling it right now. I think the Browns are overrated besides for their run game. And yes, their offensive line. But remember, the offensive line started getting good in 2020, the year Baker broke out. And you can't take that away from him because any quarterback should be good behind a good offensive line. But I've also seen Baker play good behind bad offensive line.
Right.
And if you're telling me that a bad year for him, playing with a complete torn left shoulder, broke a bone in his foot, some other stuff going on, he has like 19 total touchdowns and 13 picks, I'd be like, all right, that's probably a better year than half the people in the league. I mean, you look at Matt Ryan's numbers, he's putting up like 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Baker is a top half of the quarter. He is top 16 in my opinion. And this is the quarterback we've been missing this whole time. Someone that can do enough, but also shows signs of being able to do more than just an average quarterback. And the last thing I'm going to say is y'all are going to think Baker's deep ball is hella sexy this year when DJ Moore is breaking the fuck out. I do not care what anyone says. DJ Moore is going to be great this season. And that's all I got to say, guys.
I'm about tired of the DJ Moore talk. I know it's making its rounds on. It's like, oh, the most underappreciated receiver in the history of the world. DJ Moore is very good, but he is not going to get any acclaim, folks, on a national scale, on the video games or whatever. And he's not going to be a top tier receiver until the touchdown number goes up. It's not the yards. It's not the catches. It's not it's just this is he's had 4 touchdowns a year. So if Baker can get him the ball in the end zone, bro, then all of a sudden you'll be hearing people seeing, talking, and saying what we've been seeing. I like that talk about Baker's confidence, the swag, the back against the wall. And a lot of people would say this is that like kind of like not comparing him to Burrow as the player, but, a team that's historically bad and what that player did for them and kind of really, even if you don't think he's the greatest, is like changing a ship that has been sinking, the direction of that ship for so long. He's the first person that did it, whether or not he had a good team around him or not. Nobody else has been able to do it to this point. The number's 252-228-5098. I want to thank our friend Dave Hino. I hope that's how I pronounce it. Heino, who donated $20 on PayPal to us this week. We don't ask for the donations, but we certainly appreciate it. You can find ways to support the show monetarily below in the bar. There's a Cash App, there's PayPal, but Super Chats is one way. But really, the best way to do it is a subscribe, a share, telling a friend about the show, and calling in like these fans have on the catcalls line. The number is 252-228-5098. Let's go to the next call.
Hey, boys. Baby Rhino here. It is Tuesday on the eve of our training camp. Yep. Excited as crap about that. Wanted to get your guys' insight on what do you think the big camp battles will be. I think you've talked about it a little bit, but, how far do you see this quarterback position going? There was an interview with Matt Corral saying he's not letting up, and he's fighting for that number 1. So I thought that was interesting. I thought Cody would like that as well. But yeah, what you guys thinking? It's finally here. No more off season. Can't wait to see what we hear out of this training camp, and hopefully we're on the right foot. All right, boys. Thanks for everything you do. Everybody smash that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you on the flip side.
My man. That's a great question. As we've been pining over the quarterback battle and competition that they say exists, there's some real. There's going to be battles at every level, and that's what you're hoping for. So if we look around the room, I thought I'm going to start with this one. I thought Cody brought up an excellent point today on Twitter that as news that Shaq Thompson is going to be on the PUP list, at least for a little while. I don't know if this is all a training camp. Hopefully it will not extend into the season. Clearly he was walking and carrying his own bags. So, I got to feel like that this is going to be something that is going to give the young Bucks more opportunity. And that brings us to the linebacker position. We've got some question marks there when it comes from Damian Wilson, who was arrested this offseason. Have not heard much about him since. Who's the guy that we brought in? Corey Littleton. Littleton from Las Vegas, I believe is where he played. But then we went and drafted a very athletic and kind of one of those players that fits the MO of our scouting department, is like where they check all the boxes off. What's his name? Something Brandon, help me out, Cody. Brandon Smith. And when you brought up the point that Shaq Thompson, could be a blessing in a way to giving Brandon Smith kind of an opportunity to be in the action more and to familiarize himself and maybe even find his way into the lineup.
Yeah, what do we make of this knee scope for Shaq Thompson? Well, I was talking online in my Friday free for all chat. By the way, check out the Friday free for all every Friday at 7 p.m. You can be a part of the show. But I was wondering, is this something that Shaq Thompson just kind of waited too long to do, and inevitably that recovery time kind of bled over into the training camp window? Did he know about this at the end of the season? I don't know if we know the real story on this. Everybody says that he's going to be good to go come the start of the season, but he said it would be a good opportunity for Shaq to kind of observe the culture and kind of reinforce himself as that leader. But yeah, listen, I think Brandon Smith is an incredible prospect. 6'5", 240 pounds. This dude is a monster. He can fly around the football field. Every time I've seen him listed, it's always at the will linebacker, almost kind of like as a second to Shaq Thompson. I'm thinking maybe this might be a good opportunity for him to move up. I really wouldn't mind if they decided to give him some snaps at Mike. Now, maybe he's not quite along in his development yet to actually be the Mike linebacker in a 4-3 defense, which there's a lot. That's the quarterback of our defense. But I do think that it is an opportunity for him to get major reps at a position of need, man. Panther fans don't need me to remind them how bad our run defense has been the past, 4 years now? It's been really bad, and we're hoping that a big, fast, physical, downhill linebacker can be just what the doctor ordered.
The article I'm reading says had a minor knee procedure this offseason, likely miss a few weeks worth of practice and training camp, but he'll be around the field. So they expect him to fully be ready for the regular season. And as far as the depth at linebacker goes, veteran Rashawn Melvin did not report to camp, making a personal life decision. He may or may not report. So we may be down one more linebacker.
Well, we got some young guys, and some people brought it up in the chat as they'll be interested to see where Frankie Louvu fits into this. You've got Amari Barna, who is kind of a freakishly fast defensive lineman who is not big enough to play defensive end. At this point, but ran it was some crazy, basically like a wide receiver or running back numbers in the 40 in the combine. But I agree that again, it's Brandon Smith, right? I feel like it's such a not a lame name. It's Brandon Smith. I don't want to say. I'm still getting to know these guys. Brandon Smith.
Brandon Smith.
Is that this is the time that they can learn, right? That's the thing, is that training camp is not as important for Shaq Thompson, and it is for a guy like this. So if you want a guy to come along, this is the time that they can start to learn more about kind of the rhythm, the speed, the language. I think one of the things, though, when you said the quarterback, is that maybe the Mike linebacker can be the quarterback, and likely is like a lot of times it is very convenient for him to be. But I feel like Ed Reed was the quarterback for the Ravens at one point. So, we are so strong up the middle with now you got Jeremy Chin. And on top of that, they brought in Xavier Wilson. Still, again, we just got the guy that we brought in from Minnesota, Xavier Woods. Okay.
Yeah.
Who has been acclaimed for his communication, like kind of that lead. So maybe there's enough behind them to where you could rotate this Brandon Smith kid in there and give him some snaps like that. So that's interesting. My last point before I move on to the next subject is I always love when they're like, oh, minor knee surgery. Just nothing.
Yeah.
Just to clean out. Like, what is there? Trash in there? Like, it's like, what, did you forget to take the trash down to the street last week? I know this, is that, first of all, I know there are levels and degrees of surgeries, but like anything that's invasive is never good, in a way. I mean, I guess it can positively impact your life if you're really hurt, but like, you don't just get, so I've always wondered what a scope truly is. What the hell are they pulling out? Like, it's not,
I think they're just cleaning out scar tissue from cartilage, to be honest with you. Is what I think it is, but I'm not positive.
But he did not have a knee brace on. He didn't, you know what I'm saying? So this is just like, they know. I mean, what's Shaq Thompson on the first couple of weeks going to do? Like, he's been there before. They don't need, this would be like if you're making Greg Olsen go sleep in the damn. That's always been kind of the argument about the Wofford environment is like, why do you do this to a guy who's been in the league 15 years and make him sleep? Like, you got to bring in his own mattress, bring in pillows. They were talking about, I saw Sam Darnold talking about like how many blankets Christian McCaffrey has. He's going to be trying to sneak in. What's her name?
I mean, the guys aren't going to mind.
Oh, yeah, certainly. But listen, man, if Panther football has got you feeling all hot and bothered, then, man, let me tell you what, you have come to the right place, you bunch of freaks, because you know what? When we're feeling hot and bothered, we like to listen to the man with that silky smooth voice, baby, Codizzle. Talk to him, Papa.
Ladies and gentlemen, Panthers fans of all ages and genders and maybe non-binary identification, I want to say one thing. The offseason is over. And now we can have something to be celebrating. We can look forward to the regular season, the preseason, finding out who is our starting quarterback, who's going to be our left tackle. But you come here, you hear us chalk all these things up, talk about them in depth, maybe debate, maybe die on some hills, but you haven't hit that like button yet? I have one thing to say to all you absolute motherfucking freaks. Subscriber shame.
Subscriber shame. 166 viewers, 78 thumbs up. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell for every single time the C3 Panthers podcast goes live. Guys, we are so close, and I mean literally so close to being at 4,000 subscribers, man. Be a friend. Tell a friend. You know this is your favorite Panthers podcast. Let everyone know what the boys do. We're here year-round, and Panthers football is right around the corner, man. There's no better place to be than the C3 Panthers podcast. Be a friend. Tell a friend. Like, subscribe. Hit that notification bell, baby. Tony Dunn.
You'll actually see people catching footballs tomorrow. You will see videos of people playing actual football, right? And Carolina not USFL players or whatever the name of the league is that they're doing now, is that this is the actual Carolina Panthers will be doing something tomorrow. And it's so nice because we want actually have, like, we got real things to talk about. finally real things to talk about. And the caller, and before we move on to the next call, I want to give our last caller, who was like great question, is what are the camp battles? What are these things that we're watching? Right, as we talked kind of about that linebacker position, but I thought CK kind of segued us to another talk, which is, if you want to talk about a man who's ready to die on a hill, Cody Lashley will, and he has been for Brady Christensen for a year and a half now. And on top of that now is that there is, as soon as we go and draft Ike Ekwonu, people come out and they say, holy cow, this is Ekwonu. There's no way you're going to draft this guy and play him anywhere but left tackle. And then somehow Matt Rhule, who went like on a spirit journey, went to took some peyote and went out and found his soul. A guy who would
some
just
ayahuasca.
refuse. Yeah, he went out there and he refused last year to say that Christensen, he foresaw Christensen as a tackle in the league. He softened at the end of the season as Scott Fitterer came out and said, I thought we saw a lot of good things out of Brady Christensen. And then you started to see Rhule kind of backtrack. Then James Campen comes in. We hire a new offensive line coach who's been around this league for like 20 years. He comes in, he said, man, I really wish we could have had a little bit more tape of Brady Christensen at left tackle to better assess and answer those questions that you're asking me. And then Matt Rhule comes out and goes, oh, man, Brady Christensen can play any position, and he's going to compete for the left tackle job. And now story continues to unfold. Cody, what is happening? Oh, do we got something? We got
So we have the very clip of Matt Rhule telling you about
Let's hear what he got to say. I want to hear.
Brady's going to play left tackle and left guard. And we'll have kind of a good battle over there at both those positions. And like I said to you guys, I feel like Brady's one of our better football players. So it's just we got this 2-week training camp at Wofford. I really appreciate Wofford. Really appreciate the people of Spartanburg. We went out to dinner last night, and waitress was talking about how excited she was to have us here. So I really appreciate being here. But during this 2 weeks, we're not going to decide the whole team or anything like that, but this will be a little bit of a grind, and we'll kind of reevaluate after these 2 weeks and say, okay, where are we? And might make some changes here and there. But right now, we'll put our heads down. And I think Brady, he'll play both and, see where he's most comfortable and see where the best combination is.
See, people clown me, man. But this is why I bring the fire to y'all, man. Because listen, and my man JD54, he's with me on this too, man. We have been saying forever that it makes more sense than people want to give credit for to put Brady Christensen at left tackle and Kim Ekwonu at left guard. And that's because you're finding the best possible way to put both of these men on the football field at the same time. Now, that is not to say that Kim Ekwonu can't play left tackle. I think he definitely can. But, man, I really think that Brady Christensen is best suited as a tackle in the NFL as opposed to a guard. It's going to be a very interesting competition between the two of them. But, man, everybody that was saying that I was crazy for even suggesting that Christensen should be playing left tackle, dude, I'm telling you, man, that's why you come to this podcast, man.
There's a couple of things that stick out to me about this discussion. First of all, is that I know everybody is flipping over your comments about the left tackle stuff, which I have some criticisms and some support.
I got roasted on Twitter for this take.
I know, for a long time.
Roasted.
For me, it's more upsetting is Matt Rhule's backtracking on Christensen. Yeah. It's like, oh, he's one of the best players on our team all of a sudden. Like, you barely even said he was worthy of being out there last year until you needed him more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I felt he was so resistant. Oh, we don't want to rush him out there. That was the first thing. We don't want to rush him out there. That was the first thing. The second thing was, oh, we see him as a guard. We tried him at right guard. Then we tried him at and then he finally put him in at left tackle, and he did the best out of all the positions he played last year. And so to me, the real kind of disconcerting part of this is I hope this is Matt Rhule learning his lesson, I guess, and being humble enough to change his opinion, which is a very hard thing in this world when we start believing things to change our direction and course. So if that is the case, that's great. I just hope it's not him just like just constantly backtracking on anything. I hope it's not that. The next point about this is it really only 2 weeks training camp at Wofford? Felt like so it's shorter than I thought. All right, and then the last point was to the actual combination. I don't like when you say this is that to get these both guys on the field better suited makes more sense. I think that's forecasting it a little bit too much, like predicting it a bit too much.
Right.
But I just feel like this is the real answer to this question is Ekwonu. If you're going to just say who's better at a singular position, that's one question to have. So if Ekwonu's a better left tackle than Brady Christensen, straight up, apples to apples, maybe it is Ekwonu. Maybe the people are right. But the other question is really what's the better duo? And is the better duo Christensen at tackle and Ekwonu at guard, or Ekwonu at tackle and Christensen at guard? And that it's not a referendum on the other player necessarily of who's better, who's more qualified. It's just is that if Christensen is less of a liability on the outside than he is on the inside, then you should then maybe you would be stronger. And I think maybe that's what he was lending to.
Right.
Make the line as a whole a better offensive line, is it better to have it that way is what you're saying? Not, and like you said, I think it's a fair assessment to say it's not saying that Christensen is going to be a better tackle than Icky, but maybe as a whole, the overall improvement to the entire line might be a net positive to have Icky at guard and Brady Christensen at tackle. I think that's a fair assessment. Do I think that's what we're going to see? I don't.
The real question is how much. I think no matter what, you're going to have both of them out there, whichever way you do it. Christensen at guard, Christensen at tackle, the other one opposite. I mean, what's going to be the difference between the two is what I want to know. Like, how much better is one going to be than the other as long as you still have both of them out there in almost the same position? You're talking about a guy moving over, 3 feet and playing a slightly different. I understand, but I mean, it's
more like a highly valued position.
Yeah, so one of the things that Brady Christensen excels at is his athleticism. I mean, he was rated very, very highly from the combine to his PFF grades for his athleticism. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to comment on this too. There is this devaluation of the guard position. Like, people instantly think left tackle, oh, that's the premier offensive line position. That's where all the big money contracts go. That's the guy. However, I've been saying this for a while. I think that your pocket is just as important to a modern NFL offense as it ever has been, especially if you want to run the football. Imagine if we put Ekwonu at left guard and he ends up becoming a Quentin Nelson kind of player. Just an absolute mauler and a road grader in the middle of your offensive line. When defensive tackles are getting better and better, you have a juggernaut right in the middle of your offensive line, just mowing fools over. I mean, to me, that's the best thing that we could possibly hope for. Again, I think that Ekwonu, no matter what position he plays, is going to be a very good all-pro football player at left tackle or left guard. I have a feeling that Christensen is more a tackle than he is a guard. So I don't necessarily feel the same way about him at the guard position as I do at tackle. So to Greg's point, if this does get everyone on the field at a position where they can really do some damage, I think it's the best thing that we could possibly do.
Okay. It's just think of it this, folks, is that if you're telling anybody they're stupid for one of these things about the offensive line, this is the first fucking time in I don't know how long that we've
had a battle at left tackle.
Be stupid about it. It's like,
yeah.
What? You mean we might have a guy who could be a Pro Bowler at the guard and the left tackle position, and maybe what? Huh?
Yeah.
And now I will push back a little bit on the devaluing the interior part. because you're kind of the by those people who have devalued it on the other side of the football. Like, is the problem is drafting Derek Brown in the top 10 because of the position, and it's not because of the player and the quality of the player, but the defensive tackle in the top 10. You've been critical of that. Let's turn the tables to the defensive line real quick and talk about a couple of battles there. Real quick, we mentioned about some of those at linebacker, but if we look at this, is that Derek Brown, I think, is taking an unnecessary amount of heat from Panther fans and the media. I think that I hope he fights back against them.
Mm-hmm.
This dude has basically started every game except for one since he came into the league. Our defensive line got better.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you thought all of a sudden he was going to be a game changer like Aaron Donald or something, then you probably were mistaken in your evaluation of him. But like really at this point, I would say is what has he done that Star Lotulelei, like how has his career fallen short of where Star Lotulelei did? Maybe Star Lotulelei in his second year was was part of the best defensive line in Panther history, arguably, other than the 2003 or 4 line or whatever, when we had Chris Jenkins and all of them. But they had 60 some sacks that year. That was Star's second year, I believe, or maybe it was his rookie year. It's 2013 because we got Cam in the first round in 2011. Then we get Luke in 2012. So it was his rookie year.
And Coney Ealy and K1 Short.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I said Coney, K1 Short, exactly. So I just think in this is that I don't know if the Derek Brown letdown thing has been is necessary, but he got some questions today. If we look at that defensive line, though, really the question is not about the interior on that defensive line, but who wins the position opposite of Brian Burns. Will anyone win it? Will it be a committee type approach between Marquise Haynes, Yetur Gross-Matos, and maybe even a sprinkle of like just a speed rush of Frankie Louvu out there? Or will we bring in another guy? We've met with Carlos Dunlap. I believe Scott Fitterer has said that is not entirely off the table. Tell us a little bit about the defensive line battles that you guys see.
So one of the big battles, it appears to be on the edge. And one of them is, I kind of feel the competition might be from a person who isn't even on our team yet. So, for example, this has been rumored for a long time. This is Scott Fitterer talking about the potential of adding yet another big-bodied defensive end to our team.
Yeah, we made our calls yesterday. It's something we're still looking into. We'd like to add a big body pass rusher, that type. So nothing imminent right now.
So they want to add another big-bodied pass rusher. And to me, I said this on Twitter, that screams of Carlos Dunlap.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a player that has been linked to us for a long time. I believe he had like 9 sacks last year for the Seattle Seahawks. You know, I really like what this guy is capable of. I think that opposite defensive end position on the other side of Brian Burns is probably the biggest question mark on our offensive line. We have guys like Tony mentioned earlier, a juiced up YGM, not steroid juice, but he's just lifting, man. He's getting strong.
Yeah, I mean,
Yetur Gross-Matos. We also have Marquise Haynes, a longtime veteran of the Panthers now, who's coming back, kind of built similar to a Mario Addison. I would say a lot of I remember Ron Rivera loved him when it was coming out. But, you know, there really isn't a ton of experience. And when you're losing a guy like
Haynes has been around for a minute.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's never really been the dude. He's never been like our main guy on the offense or on the defensive line, rather. And I think that kind of worries the Panthers, knowing that they no longer have Hassan Reddick on the opposite end of Brian Burns. I think they want to get big and physical. And how many times have we heard our coaches say that they want to set a physical edge. They want big guys on the line of scrimmage setting a very strong physical edge. I think Dunlap does that, and it allows Derek Brown, Brian Burns, and everyone else on our defensive line to play faster. So that's the biggest one for me as of this moment, is that right defensive end.
I like that Dunlap, but I'm reading articles about it right now. It looks like Kansas City's interested in him too. So
It
and
seemed like
go
they,
there for a little bit cheaper, to be honest.
when he met with, well, you know, he might make a mistake on that one, a hair, not because we're better, but man, that division's, they might not be the best team, or they might be the worst team in their division at this point, or at least split in Las Vegas. I mean, things are changing in that division very quickly, and their team has changed. But when it comes back to Dunlap real quick, is that he's been pretty vocal about having good meetings with them, you know, like a positive experience, being healthy. Some people I've seen and read have speculated that really what it's coming down to isn't necessarily a number that they're agreeing on for payment, but what Dunlap's role would be.
Right.
And I think he's wanting a little bit more, or they've implied that he wants a little bit more assurances of getting some snaps, or getting these snaps, the majority of them. So first, before we go on into that, there's a request from the Bat Daddy Orange Jelly Ninja with a $2.40 super chat needs a whoop whoop from you.
Whoop whoop.
Snap. There it is.
We'll get you that $2.40 for your services, sir.
There you go.
And also shout out to Q Sparks for the $5 super sticker. Appreciate you guys, man. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Be a friend, tell a friend. Yeah, you know, this defense, you know, this is going to be an interesting one. You mentioned Derek Brown, Tony, and kind of compared him to Star Lotulelei. And I've always said that Star Lotulelei, we didn't truly know his value until we didn't have him anymore.
Yeah.
And then we saw, oh, man, he really made everything happen. And, you know, I think when you're, you know, this kind of goes back to Ikem Ekwonu at left guard. Even if you look at what Derek Brown does, he is meant to be that big, powerful force in the middle. He's not going to have 5+ sacks a year normally. Maybe if he has a good year, but that's not really the purpose of what Derek Brown is meant to do. He's meant to be a destroyer of offensive lines, and that's what the man has been really good at doing. You know, I've been a long proponent that if Davion Nixon actually steps up in the way that we're all thinking and hoping that he might, that might be a 1-2 tandem that is reminiscent of a Star Lotulelei and a K1 Shorts right next to each other. That's definitely the big position battles that I'm looking for, is that defensive interior as well. How does Matt Ioannidis factor into this? That's another name that we haven't really mentioned that much either. We have a bunch of different battles that are playing out on this roster.
I'm a little worried about relying on Matt Ioannidis too much. Number one is he's had a lot of injuries, right? He had one really good season, I believe. So you know, is that I hope he works out, but if that is the only plan, there could be a problem with that plan. So that's why those guys, like you said, Davion Nixon, Phil Hoskins, like we need somebody, Bravion Roy potentially, which I feel like he's fallen to the back of that list now, you know, of potentially like breaking through and maybe being a contributor to this. Any guesses on where Matt Ioannidis went to college at?
Sounds like a USC name. I don't know why.
There's only one college you can go to and play for the Carolina Panthers. No, he went to Temple.
Oh, Temple, yeah.
It was Temple guy.
Yeah.
There are 7 Temple players on our team. I found it today. I looked it up. It's like there's Mississippi. We've got 3 from Mississippi, maybe 2 or 3 from Alabama. But Temple, 7 players from Temple is crazy.
The whole chat knew it instantly. The moment you asked.
Yeah, I know. It was a meatball, but one of the things is Matt Rhule lost a little weight this offseason, but it sounds like he lost something else too, or got rid of something else. Cody, one of the big or early stories coming out is a reaction story from last year's camp, something that I felt like took a ton of heat. I don't know if it was necessary that it took the heat that it did, but it became symbolic. And kind of this one sign, it became a sign, an anti-sign. It was like the Antichrist coming for our season last year, and they decided to get rid of that bad juju. Cody, tell us what about this news story about getting rid of something other than a double chin.
Yeah, man. So I'll just let Matt Rhule tell you, and I'll say this. Earlier I said that I liked this press conference from Matt Rhule, and one of the reasons I liked it is just because it kind of shows growth to me. Like, the man talks a lot in good game a lot of the time, and yet we fail to see it in practice. Well, this man has had only 2 5-win seasons back to back. So I think he's showing the humility of maybe evolving a little bit and trying to, become a better head coach than he has been 2 years. Maybe it starts with getting rid of the DBO sign.
Yeah, the DBO sign to me was like a step in a process, kind of like, hey,
oh my God,
if you're not, you're going to run over there and hit it. That kind of, to be quite honest, followed what Coach Belichick and some of those guys did, and Coach Flores, like, they had it, and then the next year they kind of transitioned away from it. In fact, we jumped off sides one time in the spring, and Shaq and Frankie started screaming for the guy on offense that he had to go run to the DBO sign. I was like, hey, it's not there anymore. To me now, we have so much competition that the punishment now is just kind of coming. You jump off sides, you just kind of come out, and someone else takes that rep. And, you can only kind of do that when you have a pretty talented roster, a lot of competition. We have a ton of competition. I know everyone's going to focus on one of them, but there's a lot of competition. And so, but to answer your question, there's a lot of things I'm going to do differently because we're in year 3. As a coach, the first 2 years, you're kind of setting the foundation, now kind of all on the same page. One thing I think we do a great job of is we have a lot of fun at camp. Yeah,
so that was in the clip.
Terrible answer.
I feel like, dude? I feel like you really are my internet wife, because you just play the contrarian to me every time. The moment that I like something that Matt Rhule says, this sounds like such an idiot. Tell me why this is so stupid, Mrs. Cody Lashley.
I'll tell you exactly why, because you could just say, look, is that we're not doing it this year. And I know you guys made a lot of fun of it or whatever, but we were trying to promote accountability last year, but we got other ways that we're doing it. And that's not going to be a feature of my camp every year. But to be like, oh, well, it was just, I see it as a step in the process. Is on year 1, we start with the come to work sign. In year 2, we do your job, don't beat ourselves sign. In year 3, we go, let's win a bunch of fucking games sign. Like, it was like, no, it wasn't a step in the process. And then he was like, oh, well, something I borrowed from Belichick and Flores. What the fuck about any of those dudes?
Yeah.
Come on. It's like, oh, well, I read a story when I was a kid that Bill Belichick used to make people do sit-ups or something. Like, it just felt like, just own it. Be like, I felt like it became a distraction. I felt like it became unnecessary, or just say, we don't have it. We're doing things different. It was one of those things. Is like, don't tell me you're wrong and you're sorry, but then tell me all the reasons you weren't wrong in the process.
For me, it's looking at and listening to him talking about the first 2 years are laying the foundation, and now we have it established and we're ready. What foundation has he laid in the first 2 years? Multiple different starting quarterbacks, loss of draft picks, 2 back-to-back 5 wins. What foundation have you laid down?
I know.
There's no culture in Carolina. Like you haven't established any kind of culture. What is he talking about?
And the other thing was like, last year we needed that. This year we got so much better players. You just coming out. Like it's like,
everywhere.
you make a mistake. Oh, Baker Mayfield made a mistake. Get the fuck out. Sam Darnold in. Sam Darnold made a mistake. Matt Corral,
I
get
think
out.
you guys are reading so much into this.
Let me.
Go ahead, CK.
Can I ask you a question? Like, what should he have said there to make you happy?
Not
talk
talk.
less about it.
Not talk.
Talk less about it.
the
Like
man-
you know what I'm saying, not try to explain why it was a good thing last year, but it's not a good thing. Who really gives a shit? Don't buy
Can we say
into
this?
that
Like
bait.
we all thought the sign was corny as hell, and that ultimately it was just a waste of time. It was some high school football type of shit, and we didn't really like it, right? All I heard was Matt Rhule saying, "Yeah, we did away with the DBO sign because it's kind of bullshit." And maybe he took a long
What do
way
you
of
mean
saying
that's
it.
all you heard?
But
He
at
didn't
the
say
end of
that
the
at
day,
all.
we're moving on. We're moving down.
I wish he
the road.
would have
We're
said
moving
that.
past
Yes,
it.
that's
if he
what I'm saying.
if he would have said that right there, I'd have been like, cool. CK right there.
Yeah,
good.
but he's
If he
never
just said
gonna
that,
call his own shit corny though.
No, go ahead. Play it one more time, Cody. Let's listen for the moment when he said, "Oh, it just it's just not something we do anymore," or it was bullshit.
It was like a step in a process, kind of like, hey,
fucking process.
If you're not going to do it, you're going to run over there and hit it. That kind of, to be quite honest, followed what Coach Belichick and some of those guys did, and Coach Flores, like they had it, and then the next year they kind of transitioned away from it. In fact, we jumped off sides one time in the spring, and Shaq and Frankie started screaming for the guy on offense that he had to go run to the DBO sign. I was like, hey, it's not there anymore.
Golly
to me now, we have
The
so
players
much
miss it
competition
now.
that the punishment now is just kind of coming. You jump off sides, you just kind of come out, and someone else takes that rep. And you can only kind of do that when you have a pretty talented roster, a lot of competition.
Can I tell
We
you
have
something
a ton
else?
of competition.
The
Nobody's gonna
punishment.
focus on one
And
of them.
tell me, how does he know that Bill Belichick used it in an incremental step in building towards
That I
the
don't know.
future? Like
But
that's
I
just
did- He had another press conference yesterday, and he said that they messaged the NFL about moving the starting times as well because it's so hot down there in Wofford that some of the allotted NFL times that you have to train, it's damn near unbearable out there. But in talking about that, I think he also kind of realized, hey, making a bunch of grown men jog up and down the field in 105 degrees Spartanburg heat just to go and touch a DBO sign, it's like, yeah, it was dumb. It was
he
always
still used
dumb.
the word punishment.
Did he
used
use
the
the
word
word?
punishment? That was a punishment for a mistake. Now we're gonna punish your mistake by taking you out for a snap. I don't know if you punish players in the NFL. Instead, coach them. The harder you get coached, the harder I can coach, right? Or whatever the hell he says.
I mean,
it's just like it really sounds like a weird idea for a guy who has been a coach for there's players like, imagine going up to JJ Jansen, and he's been a long snapper in this league for 20 years, and he makes a mistake, and you're like, get the hell out of here. Why don't you say them? And it's like this real, like, let me tell you.
But
how
imagine doing that to Cam Newton. Oh wait, we have like we it's not abnormal. I mean, we're in a game where, like, there's coaches, right? This isn't like a scenario where, I mean, punishment is okay, right? The reality is there's different levels of punishment, right? There's the running, sure, but there's also, I'm going to release you from the team punishment. There's, you're not going to play this week because you played horribly this week. The past weeks you played. Those are punishments. You're getting benched. That's a punishment. Like, just because like he had a different way. I mean, the thing is, here's the thing that's tough about this. And Tony, I think you would be completely the opposite way if he was successful, right? If this team did well last year, you're praising everything he's saying he's doing right there with the DBO sign. We as a process.
No, if we were good last year, they wouldn't have gotten rid of the DBO sign. They would have kept it.
That's not true.
It's like, it's like this process. Like, no, now we've grown and matured past the DBO sign.
You know,
No,
every
is that
single
right
coach,
now?
got rid of it.
every
has
single
done
coach
this.
has a new thing every year. Every single one. Ron Rivera had a new saying every single year. Bill Belichick has a new saying every single year. Now, obviously, do your job is involved, but every single one of these coaches have a new thing to harp on every single year because they're trying to keep. Let's be honest, they're trying to keep their message fresh, right? And so the DBO wasn't going to stick around forever. It was, you know, we had a very young team, and I think those young players are now starting to become more veteran than they were, you know, rookies. And I think
All
there's a
right.
value to be taken with that.
I think I want to bring up Lynn's comment. She said, Tony, he's still trying to qualify his actions to temper. That's really the problem I have with his answers, is him qualifying his mistakes in this. Or it's like, if you think it was a mistake, you know, it's just like, here's why it wasn't a mistake, but we're not. So I don't really care. You could say this, you could say the Heat, you could say we have a different saying this year. I want to go back to, this is why they need to come and talk to us, folks. Matt Rhule, the next Panthers coach, y'all need to just come on the C3 Panthers podcast before you start training camp. And we can tell you it's a fucking great idea to have practice early in the morning. And arguably 8 is kind of late in the South like this. Is like, imagine if you cutting grass and you'd be like, we're going to start cutting grass at 8 o'clock in the morning. No, that's already, bro. It was 70. No, it was 94 degrees here at 7:30 the other night, dude. At 7:30 at night, the sun wasn't even shining. It was like sunset, and it was like still cooking. It is hot, folks. We could have told you that. So it took you 3 years. Actually, you only had one. I guess they didn't do it the 2 years before. But no, is that like, that makes sense. Ron Rivera did a bunch of stuff like this too, is towards the end, is like thinking more about how to preserve his veteran players, how to move to practice. They had a lot of night practices, a lot of morning practice. They got rid of the day practices, but it just shows you how fucking wildly crazy people were in the 80s and the 90s, doing 2-a-days. These monks were like doing cocaine and going out there and blasting mugs and shit. Yeah, I mean,
$500,000 a year. Yeah,
they're like, it's like, hey, let's take some meth and go play football, bro. Like, wild stuff. Go ahead, Cody.
No, go ahead, Greg. If you wanted to jump in.
I just one last point to what we were saying there about the Matt Rhule with the punishment. Isn't really the only way to punish these guys in the pocketbook. I mean, seriously, like, think about it. If Sam Darnold makes a mistake in practice and say your punishment is you've got to run and hit the sign, isn't the whole way he's running that sign, he's saying, 19 million, 19 million, 19 million. Like, I mean, really? Like, I don't think making these guys do more exercise is that much of a, don't get me wrong. I've been in the Army. You can make exercise a punishment. don't get me wrong.
It's not necessarily
I don't think they're going to that level.
Like, you're also taking time away from the huddle. You're having to run to the sign. It's hot as shit. You know, listen, again, say what you want about the man's answer. He moved on and got rid of the corny shit. That's why I like it. Okay. You can say that the answer is kind of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. We all agree on that.
My final clip of Matt Rhule, and this harkens back to what Greg said at the start of the podcast. We're all feeling hopeful. We all feel like, hey, man, hope springs eternal. The season is about to start, right? Well, one of the reasons why I am feeling that very same thing about this football team is because of what Matt Rhule is getting ready to describe right now. And it's the air of competition all up and down this roster.
Yeah, I just think this, every guy on our team's competing. Now, you might not be competing for your job. You might be we all know you're the starter, right? Taylor Moton is the starting right tackle, you know, but he's also, though, competing against all the great rushers he's going to face all year long. I mean, he has to have a better camp than them. So that spirit of competition, that was a focus for us spring. I think you guys all saw us end with the, kind of the Panther games as a fun way to do that. Our guy, this team, they love to compete. If I say, hey, let's go run 40s, they look at me like I'm nuts. I say, hey, let's see who the fastest guy is, and they run forever. So they're competitively spirited. I do think that having a competition at the top at quarterback, I think the feedback I've gotten from the players is it will bring out the best in everyone. I just think that every player on our team doesn't need to worry about that competition. They all have to worry about their own competition for their role, for their spot, but also for their standard of play when the season comes.
So again, it's the competition.
What
It's
a
the competition, stupid. That's
but
what it is. It's
what
the
a-
competition, and
he's a
I like
nerd,
that,
dude.
man. I like the fact that we have an air of people whose job is kind of on the line. That everybody's job is kind of on the line, and this is something that I've said for a while too. Everyone has something to prove. No one on this team doesn't have something that they need to prove this year. And when you have a guy that's competing for your job, or hey, let's say you're Big Snacks, you're Davion Nixon, and you know that they brought in Matt Ioannidis, and you're like, oh, we don't need this Matt Ioannidis. We got Big Snacks. And if he takes that mentality into practice, and everyone does, dude, I'm hoping that we can get a confident, aggressive, pissed off Carolina Panthers that are looking to come out and smack some fools across their mouth. I think that competitive nature to the football team is how that starts for us.
Yeah. What he just did was he just filled his essay paper, meaning he just put pointless sentences that are obvious statements or either saying the same thing over in a different way to reach that 1,000-word limit.
I can't believe I'm the Matt Rhule defender here.
Listen to this, though, Cody. What does it mean to say, not only is he competing on our team, he's competing with every other defensive tackle in the league? Well, no shit. You always are. And more to the point, in the broad scheme of things, yes. But more to the point, no, he's not. He's not competing with Aaron Donald for his job, for his starting position. That's a dumb statement to make. All it's doing is just words to come out of your mouth. That's not saying anything. You're competing with every other defensive tackle in the league.
But
no, you're not. You're competing with the other players in your team for the starting position.
Just a nerd.
Period.
It's not that it's wrong.
I feel like these are nitpicky things. Like if you want to be problematic with like the things he does with the team, great. But like these things are such a small part of what he does. Like this is such like that's the thing. And I listen. I don't want to shit talk you guys, but like no, I'm saying like listen. He is literally answering questions and being pretty straightforward about his answers, right? He's not sitting here saying what Bill Belichick says, it'll be fine. He'll do good. He'll be all right. He'll be a good player. We just do our job. You know, like at least he's given us some, he's turning what Bill Belichick's press conference would be a 3-minute press conference into a 15-minute affair for us to be able to enjoy and maybe even have conversations like this. Like, yes, does some of the stuff as every single coach in the entire NFL does some of it just is it empty? Sure. Guess what? If you watch Scott Fitterer's press conference, he did a lot of the same shit. Like nobody wants to talk about that. It's irrelevant. How he's saying or what he's saying does not matter. What matters, and I will agree with you on a lot of this, is how he actually coaches this team. And if we actually have a problem with that, fantastic. We can probably all agree on that. But this press conference, we can be happy. I think Cody can be excited about what he's saying. But the idea that we're nitpicking these small things is just so trivial.
He's a nerd, dude. He's a fucking nerd.
You're right, CK. It is trivial and it is fair, but you can make the same argument whenever you're trying to tout how great it is. Well, it's a very trivial, small thing to be touting about how great he is with this because of what he said. You know, I mean, but you're right. It is very trivial and small. I just think it's not.
Dude, my man, impressive. It's like, look, does that mean that the team's gonna be bad because I don't like his answer or love his answer? I just think he's a dork, dude. I think he's a dorky nerd, and I don't know if that inspires me at this point. My man said this as he goes, oh, I mean, if I say go run 40s, the guys look at me like I'm fucking crazy. Well, yeah, they do, because who the hell runs a 40 other than at the combine, dick? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't do that at practice. Like, what the hell is that going to? Of course, we would all look. But if I say who's the fastest guy on the team, then they will run for days. I felt like he's just going to come out and be like, you see that video of them bowling the other day?
But
remember when the rookies went bowling? He's like, oh, did you see the competitive bowls they were doing? It's just nerd shit, man. And the only thing is that, like, I just sit there thinking, you know where the competition is? Yeah, we're all competing. Even the coaches are competing, motherfucker, for our jobs.
I might not even be head coach next year.
But
y'all.
like to CK's point though, like, okay. Well, to Tony's point too, like, we know that he's a dork. Okay, we know who Matt Rhule is. He's gonna give you the coach speak. Like, you know that he's going to give you the platitudes. Like, we already know all this shit. As a fan who has been so completely just chewed up and spit out these past 2 years by Matt Rhule and his coaching regime, I'm just looking for any sign of growth. Okay? I'm looking for any sign that this man is taking the active steps to be a better head coach than he was before.
Right.
I'll tell you what, there was not a competition last year at left tackle. There wasn't. That was Cam Irvin's job, and Matt Rhule was going to be damned if anyone else is going to tell him different. Now, it went from no more DBO sign to every place is a competition. Dude, that is a step in the right fucking direction, man. And look, I'm no Matt Rhule believer, but I'm telling you, he is starting to say things that are starting to make me say, okay, maybe we are indeed moving in the right direction. Like, that's all I'm looking for. I know that Matt Rhule is a nerd. I know he's going to talk in coach speak and platitudes that at the end of the day is probably just him talking a little bit too much. I don't care, dude. I want to see a forward trajectory, and I feel like I'm seeing that right now.
We're seeing a guy who looks, number one, last year we saw a guy who was defeated. Matt Rhule looked defeated. At the end of the season, he looked rough. He looked like he had barely been able to sleep, right? Looks like he had just let the amount of travel and the amount of fast food and everything hit him, right? Like, he looks like he is a much different human being. Now, is that saying he's going to be a better coach? No, right? But listen, if there's one thing to say about it, if he's able to come into this season with all of these new additions and he's able to actually pull something out of the hat, like, it's hard to argue that 3-year progress or that 3-year plan that he's always got where the team started. It's hard to argue that, right? Because he's done it not only on the college level, but potentially on the NFL level, right? And so I think at this point in time, like, this is the 3rd year, right? This is the year. This is also the same year that Matt Rhule or Ron Rivera was on the hot seat, and he was able to turn it around, and he became beloved by the Carolina Panthers fan base, right? So Matt Rhule still has a little bit in the tank. Again, we've all been very critical, and maybe it's because I'm at the beginning of the season, and I think we're a bit optimistic about the future of this team. But I'm willing to give Matt Rhule one more year, and if it doesn't go well this year, then it's all bets are off. But I think right now it's fair to say he's got a shot.
I just think that even if Matt Rhule is successful this year, there is no way anybody can say, well, look, the 3-year plan. There is absolutely no way the point he's at was his plan to get here. If we win this year, he maybe it's because of something he did, but this was not his plan.
Other than the quarterback, what else do you say went outside of his plan?
Well, last year, firing his whole staff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
his whole staff was not in his plan.
Right. So, but I guess my point is like right now, it looks like to me what he is to do based on the way that this 3rd year is going is come in, try to establish a culture, find out who are the leaders, then kind of build it into the 2nd year, start to add some additions, make it a more molded around what he wants. And then the 3rd year is to try to make these players become the leaders, right? Become the team. Like he said, he's wanting to make Shaq Thompson essentially an assistant coach to be out here holding his guys accountable. Because if you can say, hey, listen, you are not just a player, you are a part of this organization, you're a part of this team, and you're going to take the reins, I think that's going to allow for some accountability. Now, if it doesn't work, he looks like a stooge, right? But if it does work, I think you can say his process is something that is valuable to potentially look forward to in the future. The only thing I think we can look at as far as from his specific coaching is that he has not gone to plan as the quarterback. And I think we can also say the turnover of a GM and the turnover of his coaching staff,
His
the
whole
hiring
staff,
of
dude.
right.
The entire staff other than one person.
Well, let's also
Smith.
well, I mean, no, I think there was more that stayed, right?
Nah,
Well, and
like
it's
it's
like, see,
like
that's where
every
I'm
single fucking person is new. And look here, to answer your question is that people who haven't watched this podcast for maybe the entire time of Matt Rhule could see this as nitpicking this and that. Matt Rhule's got to win me now.
Right.
He doesn't deserve my praise. He doesn't deserve anything. And for the reason that being is because you want to say how I think it was supposed to go to plan outside the quarterback is this for us to get better from year 1 to 2. And what after year 1 of Matt Rhule, I actually thought, man, this guy isn't in over his head. We looked competitive. Like he said a lot of the right things. It looked like, man, we drafted all this. We got young quick. It looked like we were stepping forward. And it was just the regression last year. And not that we just had a bad year. It's not just wins, folks. It's the way you lose sometimes. Right. And so people want to point out that Ron Rivera stunk his first 2 years. Well, you know what Ron Rivera did all of his years that they were bad? They finished strong. I mean, he didn't lose the team. They always had a tough November and December to where you said, you know what, is that, man, some shit went wrong this year. This isn't the best season we ever had, but it's like there were signs of trudging through it. Last year felt like you said, defeat. And it wasn't just from the fan base. It was from the players. It was from the coaches. And so that's the real thing that was, that's the real thing that was, but is kind of concerning to me. And my last point about it is just this: is I agree with Greg. Is that if this works, maybe it just says this is that it took, he got better, some whatever. I want to give him praise. If he has a good year, I can't wait to celebrate it. But I do think that this college comparison, it took 3 years. I'm so tired of hearing it because the college game and the pro game is just fundamentally different.
Right.
And it's not that the football, that's not like you're playing baseball and hockey different, but it's the recruiting process, the size of the rosters, just the way that college football is structured is just a different animal. And so I don't know how you can just be like, well, it took 3 years at Baylor, so it's going to be like this in the NFL. And I'm not saying that he should have done it faster either. I just think if it happens in year 3, it's more coincidence than this 3-year process.
But I think that's also unfair, right? I think it's also unfair to say that it's just coincidence when it's happened. I know
that it happens in year 3.
Right.
That's all I'm saying is that
right.
It's not that because it was like the 3-year trajectory. Like it could happen in year 4.
But I think it's also fair to say, like, listen, you're right. The entire system is fundamentally different. When he went to become a head coach at Temple, he had to learn that first year what the team was about, what his opponents were about, the league, all that stuff, right? The second year, he kind of got a vision for what he wanted. In the third year, he was able to execute, right? So I think you could
year
say
3, your recruits are getting there, the players you want. And then with Baylor, too, they were under all of those sanctions and things like that.
Plus, competition changes yearly in the college football level. You have players who leave and come in every year.
My point is that that same level of understanding can be attributed to what we're seeing in NFL. Maybe. Right? Yeah. He could come in here and have learned, like, basically starting to learn a little bit. Yes, and I know if people talking about COVID with this first year. Yes, everybody dealt with that, but how many first year head coaches had to deal with that? Right? How many people who didn't have an established fan, and how many of those people were successful? Not many, if any.
I have a strange take on that too.
But the part that I'll say, and then I'll let you go, or we could do that clip, is to say that it's only a coincidence is tough, because I think it's not fair to Matt Rhule. If he is in his 3rd year and he's able to be successful this year with the Carolina Panthers, he has proven on 3 different levels, on 3 different teams, bringing a team back from the brink of destruction back to a successful franchise potentially. I think that's not just coincidence. I think you've got to give him a little bit more credit than just saying it's just the way that things worked out. I think you've got to at least give him some praise, saying, hey, listen, maybe the 3rd year is a potential, turning point for him.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I just think if it happens in year 3, it's not because of the collegiate process that he understood.
Oh, no.
So I hope that maybe it just
it could be
the
Matt
way
Rhule.
it happened. Right.
It could be Matt Rhule is what I mean.
The one other thing about the COVID thing, and then I'm going to pick on one person in the chat room who's sniping at me, and then you can go, Cody, is my strange hot take, and I haven't done the research and the analytics to back this up, but I feel like a lot of the younger coaches Stefanski did real well in the COVID season. And I wonder if kind of the younger coaches were able to manage the distance work environment a little bit more nimbly than like a Bill Belichick, is like, and I just kind of think of Dave Gettleman when he was doing the draft during COVID, and it was just like, what's going on? It's like, how do I open my email? Like, so I wonder how Pete Carroll is he's like, how's this Microsoft Teams crap work? And so I wonder if the younger generation of coaches kind of had the technological advantage to be more nimble in that, like, not as set in their ways when it came to the training camp part. And the last thing is yes, Stefanski stuck last year. I get it. Dante's toe is giving me more problems than Dante's toe gives him more problems. Gives him problems. He said this. He said maybe Tony should spend time watching just player pressers. He realized that Rhule wasn't the problem, bro. I've watched every snap, every press conference in my life for the last 10 years, dude. And I promise you this is I've been very, I think, fair and forgiving Rhule for a long time. And like in last year, I just kind of, I could see that was all hogwash. It was just falling apart. But he said Brady, Meyer, Blackburn were not Rhule's chosen coaches. Well, then who the hell chose them? And don't tell me that David Tepper hired them, because that's some bullshit too. If you say that with confidence, then you're just saying it because you believe it, not because you have real evidence for it.
Yeah.
Now, it might be the case, but I promise you this, I do know one thing is that he didn't take the problem with him and the Jets, Matt Rhule, 2 years earlier before he interviewed with the Carolina Panthers, where the Jets would not give him full control of his staff. So who the hell did hire these people? Brady, the wonder kid. Look, he came out and said it was a mistake, his mistake, that he kind of took the advice or whatever. Blackburn, okay, he interviewed for the job. Maybe he's a holdover, but like, who the hell else? You know what I'm saying? Like, you are the coach. You can't be like, oh, and actually, that's the biggest credit I give to Matt Rhule is for cleaning house, and not only just cleaning house to clean house, but really taking a different approach in a different direction in the guys you brought in that really made up for the weaknesses. Go back and watch my tape, bro, about how many times we talked about how inexperienced the coaching staff was. Not that they weren't talented, but inexperienced at the NFL level. Cody, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, like I feel weird the fact that I've been the Matt Rhule defender on this show tonight. Me and CK. I've not been a big fan of this guy. I do think that I'm seeing some growth from him, and that's what I like to see. I'm not saying that he's won me over. Tony, this will be their best test, because he talked about Christian McCaffrey, and this is a debate that we got into fairly recently. Now, upon seeing this clip that I'm about to play for you, I thought that sounds like an answer that Tony would like, because I heard you say something similar on the podcast. Tell me what you think, or if you're just going to be my internet wife and be the contrarian yet again.
We're going to do maybe a couple things different in training camp, but I think our training camps with Christian have been right. I mean, I think he's entered the season and been really healthy and productive early. So, but he is a year older. So I think as players get older, we're going to, they get a little bit more, break in time and all those things. So we might give them some time here and there. In terms of in the season, I think we've, said, hey, we're going to try a couple different things which I'm not going to really talk specifically about now, but at the end of the day, he's a great player. And so great players want to be on the field and they want to affect the game. And so, I'm not spending my time worrying about, hey, will Christian get hurt? Running backs get banged up in this league a lot. When he does get banged up, if he does, I want to make sure we get him back as fast as possible. So we're trying to have as good a plan for him as we can have, but I also want him to be great and go out and affect the game. And I think Christian McCaffrey, where he's at, where he was this spring, where he's at, I mean, I'm just so excited to see what he could do.
So I felt like that was a very Tony Dunn answer. He's not talking about putting kid gloves on Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, hey, he's a running back. He affects the game. It's fucking Christian McCaffrey. Let the dude go. I'm not trying to coddle him. Is this a good Matt Rhule answer?
Yeah, I mean, he's finally not being a wussy about it, right? Is that this is being scared? It's like playing with scared money and this isn't what he's been doing, but he's kind of gotten, and I would say, and I don't know, I haven't been in his head, but I do feel like that conversation, and that's really something that bothered me so much about Matt Rhule last year, is it felt like the outside noise was so influential on him, and really on the entire organization. And I've seen people that are very talented in this world that have been through tough times, and they know that that's just part of it. And it's not like, like it's like this kind of trying to counter everything. One thing goes wrong. Well, is that Christian McCaffrey got hurt. It happens. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I don't think that it means he's injury prone. And I felt like, and one of the things, and that's just what I wish Matt Rhule would have had a little bit more backbone last year about, hey, things aren't going well right now. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not panicking. It was like, oh, well, we're just going to move this guy over here and move this dude over here. It's like, and there's two examples where I think that were very telling about how the noise got to Matt Rhule last year. And that is after the very first game with the Jets. We go and beat the Jets, and it was a game that, yeah, you would love to win more decisively. It came down kind of to the end. Zach Wilson kind of makes it, gives your defense a little bit run for the end, but you won it. And Christian McCaffrey got a bunch of touches in that game. Sam Darnold made some pretty big plays, but Christian McCaffrey ran that clock down, moved that chain, you know what I mean? Like, and then it was like, oh, well, he had 33 touches. Are you worried about his workload? And then the next week, it was like, oh, we're really worried about Christian's workload. So they immediately just took that comment and felt like, oh, well, we got to do something different. Okay, maybe that's me reading into one too much. But then it was after the Giants game. I was just like, well, we got to run the ball. We got to run the ball. We got to run the ball. And it was like, yeah, you didn't run the ball in that game, but that doesn't mean that's only the reason you lost the game. And I just felt like the noise got to him. And I am happy about this, is that I think the noise about Christian McCaffrey is a lot noise. And that, is like, at what point do we stop protecting him and just use the motherfucker? And you know what? You're only going to have so much time with him. And I like that. He was like, is that like, we can't pretend, like act like this dude's made of glass. So yeah, I like that. I like that. And why do you not want to use when I go, I like to cook a lot. I use the best knife in my drawer.
Yeah.
I use the same knife to do 90% of the cutting I do. Do I have other knives that are pretty decent? Yeah. Good knives too. But that's the best one. Use it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think that we should baby Christian.
Right.
I do think that we need to continue to use him in a way that assures that he's going to be around come November and December, hopefully into January. And, I think that there is a balance that you have to strike with that. But yeah, again, this is a big year for Christian. I've said multiple times now, I know I'm a broken record on this podcast, but I've said multiple times that everybody has something to prove. Everyone. There's we don't have a Tom Brady on our team, right? We don't have, some player that's
Julius
just
Peppers.
There's no more Julius Peppers. There's no more Luke Kuechly. There's no more Greg Olsen. Everybody has to step up in a big time way this year, for everyone from our front office to our coaching staff, and definitely to our players. Even our ownership, David Tepper, needs to step up a little better than he's done, I would say. So it's time for everyone to step up. And yeah, man, I think this is going to be exciting to see what kind of year Christian McCaffrey has. Is he going to be the player that Greg told us about just the other week? One of the best offensive players potentially ever, if he continues on his track? Or is he going to be another player whose career is haunted by injuries that would never let him be his full self?
I tell you, you go back and watch him. Even in the 2 years where he's gotten hurt, is the offense has been so atrocious, and he still gets yards. He makes plays, and you're just like, oh well. And then you'll hear the fantasy nerds come out and be like, well, I mean, you're only going to average 0.48 less a carry if you go with this other guy who's drafted in the whatever round, and you put those dudes in, and they're walking backwards, man. They ain't getting
Oh
jack.
man, what I love is when we would have like you would have Mike Davis or you would have Bonifant or whoever it would be, and they would say like they'd come in and they'd do an all right job, and like we'd be like, oh, maybe this can work. Maybe we'll do a 1-2 punch or something like that. And then Christian McCaffrey comes back and he plays like one quarter, and we're like, oh my, this is just night and day different. Like it's just different, bro. It's absolutely insane to see the level. I guess the level of the elevation that he brings to this team and to this offense. It's quite wondrous to watch.
The last point about Christian McCaffrey, and we'll move on to another cat call, is that you're right, Cody, is everybody's got something to prove. And this is why I'm like, take the kids' gloves off. I don't mean be reckless with him and be like unnecessarily like, is that I'm not saying that but like, it's just go out there and play him like he's a football player that needs to earn his money and his job just like everybody else, and prove to us that he's a star. Because I promise you this, is if he doesn't have a good year,
right,
what are the Panthers are going to be thinking about in the future? Is it time to draft a new running back? Is it time to maybe see what we could get for Christian? Is it time for, is the money going to match? Right. So it's like, not only, is that maybe, and then you might be cleaning house by that point. I just think this is Christian McCaffrey comes back, has a great year. And it doesn't even have to be 1,000. Like if he could just have even 800 rushing yards and then like 800 receiving yards and just play all 16 games and all of that, is all of a sudden you're going to go back, and that narrative of Christian McCaffrey being a bust potentially, or a guy that couldn't be who he was, will disappear. Right. So we just need that to move on. And I like that attitude by Matt Rhule. It's like, we can't act like he's going to get hurt. It's possible, but like maybe we don't need to think it into existence. So let's go on to the
Hey, Greg had one thing he wanted to say before we moved on. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, no, Cody, you were just bringing up a minute ago the Panthers being a new team, and this person's gone, and this person's gone, and this person's gone. It got me thinking. In 2015, when we went to the Super Bowl, out of the four of us here, if you would have said, "Hey, in 2022, who's the one player from this team that's going to be left?" Would any of y'all guess Shaq Thompson?
No, probably not. That? Probably. Well, nah, probably
no. There's
not.
No way. If you said one player is going to be left, who's it going to be?
Yeah,
no way
I probably wouldn't have said Shaq Thompson. Probably.
I bet I know I would not have said that Cam Newton wouldn't be playing football.
Yeah,
that's the one answer I would have never given you, is that Cam Newton would not be playing football at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Holy crap. The other thing is, what's kind of wild about that 2015 stat in this team is not only, yes, there is an attrition of teams, but this is an entire attrition. Like, there is nobody other than Shaq. It's kind of wild that no one else has worked out.
Right.
Like, even Christian McCaffrey, who has been the best player on the team since 2015, right? Like the best drafted star. Even we're sitting here wondering if he's going to work out.
Right.
Like, it's like DJ Moore, most consistent, Brian Burns, and these are young players. It's just surprising we don't have a guard who's still on the team, or Coney,
kicker
I wanted Coney Ely to be Coney Ely. You know who I see on Instagram a lot now is Frank Alexander. I don't know if you guys remember him. Frank Alexander was going to be a boss, bro, and then he just smoked weed and got in trouble. So like when we kick people out of the league for smoking weed, but now Deshaun Watson just gets to, what over everybody, and he's fine.
And now everyone's allowed to smoke weed pretty much.
I know. Yeah, no, but nobody cares anymore. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's go to the next call.
Yo, guys, it's Nick. It's been a minute. Been on the Friday for you, my balls.
Hey.
And haven't felt the need to call you guys in, call into you guys for the last little while. But, I was listening to the Matt Rhule press conference yesterday, and Matt Rhule brought up our defense and how we've been terrible in the red zone, which is true. Okay. And I forget what else he had brought up, but he missed the most important thing that all of us have been saying for the last year. We can't
stop the fucking run. So, and that was a big problem last year, especially starting off in that Dallas game. So surprised he never brought that up. And at the same time, let's hope and pray that we actually practice red zone this year, because our red zone offense was atrocious. All right, guys. Love the show. Greg, you did a great job, man. Okay, all those little snippets and everything like that you made for the show, man, I have to tip my hat to you, man. Those came out awesome. All right, guys, keep on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. Hey, he brings up a good point about the never not being able to stop the run. But do you guys remember there was a time where Carolina had like the longest streak ever of like not allowing a 100-yard rusher, and then we allowed a 100-yard rusher, and it seems like that was like opening up the floodgates, and we've just almost allowed a 100-yard rusher every game since then. It feels like it's so weird.
I think you're right. That's a great point. I wonder if that was like, it might have been 2018.
That was when the dam broke.
Like yes, and it was just so. And that was even. There was a point where you were sitting there thinking Luke Kuechly isn't good. Not good, but you know what I'm saying? Like there was a moment where we said, "Oh God, it looks like Kuechly's even."
I remember being CK going back and forth about whether or not Luke Kuechly had lost a step or not, and it was like a big point of debate.
Like we didn't want to say it. It felt, and you're like, is it because they're getting to is it guys around him? You knew he was still the best guy on the team. That's what I'm saying. It's like you still knew he was the best defensive player you had ever really seen on this team in a way other than Julius Peppers. But you knew that wasn't the best Luke you had ever seen at that moment. And I think Luke undersaw it. You know what I mean? Clearly he did. I mean, there were some different reasons. Even though him with like one leg is better than any linebacker we got on our team right now. The number's 252-228-5098.
Hey guys, Kyle from VA. Haven't called in a while. Been listening every episode though. Love all the new stuff y'all are doing.
Thank you.
I don't know why the Panthers haven't just signed y'all to a contract already to have y'all talk about them. Have to clean up the show a little bit, but anyways, I see everyone freaking out about Julio and respectively one of the greatest receivers probably of all time. But Julio's not Julio anymore, and anyone who wants to debate me on that can, and I will prove that easily. That's easy. So, like I said on Twitter, you could put JC on Julio, or you could put JC on Mike Evans and put Chen on the other one. It don't matter. And Dante's got the speed to lock up Godwin. It's just a matter of fact, Dante, he's had his issues in the past, but with the talent we have in our secondary, there's no reason at all we shouldn't match up well against the Bucs. Like I'm optimistic. It's early. We're going into training camp. I'm really optimistic, but I'm not worried about defense other than linebacking core. Like everything else, I think is going to be just fine. I haven't called in on Baker Mayfield. I was against it at first. I wanted Matt Corral to take some snaps because we all know Sam just was going to get benched at probably week 4 or 5. But I think Baker can do enough to get us to the playoffs if we play well. That's a stretch. I know y'all all probably talking shit right now, but with the revamped offensive line we have with DJ, hopefully Robbie can do something this year instead of just doing the Robbie antics. I think we got a good team, man. Christian stays healthy. Praying to the football gods for that. See this man healthy once again. That would be lovely. But I think we got a pretty strong team this year. Well, early season optimistic, but it's better than what we've had in a while. And I think this defense can get humming, and we can really turn on some wins. But anyways, I'll be tuning into the show tonight. I'll keep pounding.
Appreciate you, brother.
Incredible call, man. First, we thank you for the support. This was the video I was talking about, and somebody told me I was wrong. I said Phil Hoskins, and it's or whoever is beside him.
Yeah, you've been calling Davion Nixon Big Snacks, and that's
it's Phil Hoskins. Okay. Which
But
one
yeah,
is that
this is
one?
YGM in the white shirt. On the left, Davion Nixon, just looking like a beast, man, in the blue tank top.
I just feel
man,
like YGM looks so thick, like big, like athletic. He doesn't look like he's fat. You know what I'm saying? Usually I see D tackles look heavy. This guy is everything. Look, his legs are bigger. His arms are bigger.
awesome would it be if these two men just took the NFL by storm this year? Like, dude, we have to dream about that kind of shit, man. Like, I remember being very high on YGM coming out of Penn State, but I didn't like his coaches at Penn State. And I didn't feel like he's been given a ton. I mean, not a ton of opportunities. He's had some good opportunities, but this year is the golden opportunity for him and that man next to him to step up in a big way, man. Maybe they might look at YGM and decide, hey, you know what? We might not need Dunlap. YGM is looking good enough that maybe he's the guy and we don't need to sign anyone else. It'll be interesting to see, man.
I hope so.
Sure.
You trust your evaluations with these players, right? That's the one thing is that because all this, but this is his second year. You know, YGM had a rookie year where he made some impact, but also struggled, had some injuries and some different things. Defensive ends, usually it's year 3 they pop off. So even if he doesn't just break out this year, I'm not believing that it's over, right? We want to see him optimistically just step forward and be a more productive, more reliable player. But you're right. I mean, wouldn't it be great if he exploded onto the scene? Right. I think that, so these timelines and go back. And then the last, going back to the call, Baker Mayfield definitely can take us like with a better team puts us in a better situation. Oh, I want to talk about the Julio thing briefly.
Let's do that.
My question is like, I don't know. I don't think that Julio alone is a scary thing, right? It's certainly not Julio of old. Right, that torched us for 300 yards, but he's always dealt with injury. So I don't even want to hear. I don't even know if just saying, well, he hasn't been available a lot. He hasn't been available a lot half the time. He won't ever practice and he'll go put up 140 yards on you. But it's not just Julio. Yeah, you're right. No touchdowns. You're right. It's not Julio alone. It's more just it's Mike Evans. He's like the third receiver on that team, right? The third best. He's not brought in there. If he works out, he works out. It's kind of like another Antonio Brown type signing, or maybe not as. And
that was Cam Newton's draft too, Julio.
Oh, that's right. And I just want to put this out as the guy was drafted the same year. Another one drafted the same year. Last year, AJ Green, who has had who's had a more devastating injuries recently, still put up 848 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, if he comes in there and puts up 700 yards and 3 touchdowns, and it's a third receiver, I'm just saying is the Bucs know what's up. They got to try to get some bling now, and they needed they wanted another weapon now that Gronk's not going to be there. And it's not one of these guys that's the problem. It's just dealing with all 3 who the GOAT is slinging it to them. And let's just say Tom Brady has known how to get the most out of a guy's career that you thought was over. Agreed. We've seen it with multiple players, and I wouldn't be surprised if Julio's one of them.
Yeah. I just want to know, though, with Julio, you did mention the fact that he's been injured, and I've had Julio in my fantasy league. I don't know how many times because, I hate the Falcons, but he is a great receiver. He's just a no-touchdown guy. He'll get you 3 a year.
DJ Moore.
But why do we look at players like Julio and Gronk and Odell and Zeke, all these injury-prone players, as still be afraid of them, and they're great players to have, but we don't do that with Christian McCaffrey. All those guys that it's named have missed just as much time as Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey has played on the level of, if not better than those players at his position. But when Christian McCaffrey gets injured, people question his durability. But Gronk, Julio, Odell, Zeke, nobody questions that about them. I just don't understand why.
I think the names you threw in there are a mixture of different reasons, right? So I think there are some that lend to your point. I think others probably are different criticisms about them, other than just that injury and this and that. Interesting. But interesting, is and one is Christian McCaffrey was drafted in 2017 or 18 or whatever it was, and Julio was drafted the same year Cam Newton was.
Yeah.
So and so maybe when you get more towards the Odell, different things. But all right, let's go on with the next call. The number's 2.
Wait, hold on. I want to add one more thing to that. Who do we put on who in that matchup? Because let me tell you what, if I have my money on, if it's between Julio Jones and J.C. Horn, I got the young dog all day, baby. I got J.C. Horn.
Yeah, but would you be more interested in matching J.C. Horn up against either Mike Evans or Godwin? You know what I'm saying? Is that, if anything, is that when was Mike Evans drafted? Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer,
2014.
See, so is that, and then it's kind of Godwin's still always dealing with injury. I think Mike Evans still the best receiver on their team.
Yeah, he's probably the most, dependable, reliable receiver that they have. But I'm just thinking man, you're probably putting J.C. Horn on Mike Evans. Are you putting C.J. Henderson on Godwin?
You're probably going to put Dante on Godwin, I would think, is just because I think I need to see how fast he is.
And that's another thing, too.
How tall he is.
One of the things I've been going back and forth with people on Twitter is about Dante Jackson and where does he play in this defense this year? Are they going to have him on the outside, or are they going to do something that we've been calling for a long time? Give him some more reps at that nickel corner position. Now, if they do that, I could very easily see them motioning Julio into the slot to try and potentially give him a matchup advantage against Dante Jackson. That might be a little tough, but I don't know. You're right. They might also decide to put Dante on the outside and maybe either C.J. Henderson at nickel or maybe even a Keith Taylor. We might see.
Yeah, Keith Taylor, or maybe you're saying this is Jeremy Chin. You can go and handle Julio these days. You couldn't handle Julio 5 years ago. But maybe this Julio you could. I will tell you, you're probably playing a ton of zone defense. And to be honest, you're not putting anybody in a man-on situation with Tom Brady. Because man-on-man, Tom Brady is just going to find whichever one you make the mistake with. And so you have to be perfect in man defense against Tom Brady, I would think. And with a zone defense, it's just like bend, don't break mentality. And hopefully you can get after him quickly. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm also not the, the X and O guy. Let's go to the next call. 252-228-5098.
Hey, guys. Listen, this ain't about the Panthers, but I got to say it. Friday night on Free For All, I told everybody I thought Kyler Murray was lazy. Me, Drew, and said he was lazy. Now, well, I said he was lazy. Anyway. And I was right. Because you don't put in a contract he has to study on an iPad 4 hours a day in order not to violate his new contract. You don't put that when you give the guy $46.2 million a season. But they did. Kyle Murray, man up, dude.
Do you think that is? I mean, obviously we haven't heard of those clauses. I wonder if those are going to be more common and prevalent in the future. What do you think it really tells us about Kyler Murray is another question. And this is the thing is with players that have always excelled because of their their natural gifts. It's just like someone who's very good at school. Is that someone who is naturally intelligent when it comes to school subjects or something? Maybe it's reading or attention, whatever it may be, where you have a skill set that lends that to you and makes it easier. One of the problems is that you don't learn how to study.
Right.
Is like, and so I, like for a long time in my life, I wasn't maybe challenged as much, or if it just came easier. My sister took a little bit longer to develop, right? So she wasn't as much of a natural reader or something but she developed such great study habits. So when then she got to the real test, like she was experiencing that. And then when I got to the fire, you know what I'm saying? I was like, oh shit, I have to learn how to study. That's the thing. And so I wonder if Kyler Murray is kind of victim of what some of the greatest athletes are. And that is, they never had to be the technician because they were always faster, strong, kind of the Cam Newton potential flaw, which is like, man, mechanics aren't we always talked about his feet and this and that. Well, it was never a problem because he could throw it off his back foot 80 yards or whatever against inferior competition. So I wonder if that is it going forward, or if we see more clauses, or maybe they're just right. Maybe that is telling.
How did you prove it? How did you prove how did you prove that a person
studies 4 hours,
4 extra hours?
They
got to log in and do exercises, and they monitor your behavior online.
Like a legit college student.
No, they do that in the NFL anyway.
Like a worker.
They do that in the NFL anyway. They do monitor how much time you spend watching film on your tablet. They know those things. Those are things that are absolutely already a part of the game, a part of the way that they are. And honestly, like from what I'm hearing, this is so like out of the normal way of doing things for a contract. Like this has got a lot of people honestly a bit concerned. And it's really funny because I was watching Pat McAfee, and apparently the exact week that Call of Duty came out last year is the exact week that Kyler Murray started to go downhill and act like he didn't know anything about his opponents when he was playing.
That's awesome.
It's almost hysterical to see the correlation, because it is a visible change that happened to him in the year.
He's got like burner Xbox accounts and shit like that, so people don't know it's
not
him.
Kyler.
With. Not Kyler. Yeah, they do monitor. I have a friend who works in IT, and he will like if he wants to take a nap or something, he opens the notepad on his computer and then sets a glass on his keyboard, and it just like writes letters for the next 4 hours or whatever that he's asleep, so it looks like his computer is active when they're watching him. Anyway, 252-228-5098.
What is up, C3?
This was
it's Anthony.
One of the
you already know, calling in every week. Man, training camp just started. You're getting that Panthers feel again. Football is right around the corner. And man, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just because I'm a Baker fan, but I am so hyped for this season. I really think everyone's back is against the wall, and this is exactly what we need to wake up and realize, oh shit, we got to go win some games this year. There's a lot of competitions that's going to go around, starting obviously at quarterback, offensive line. Let's just hope Matt Rhule figures out, or James Campton figures out the best 5-0 linemen, and we're not putting shitters out there. Defense, hopefully we can sign Carlos Dunlap to give us one solid edge rusher aside from superstar Brian Burns. I think that's just our one weakness right now. We'll see how this all plays out. Just wanted to talk about the quarterbacks for a second. I may be in my own boat with the Baker situation, but I want y'all to answer this question. Did we bring in Baker just because he needs to save Matt Rhule's job, or did we bring in Baker because Corral and Sam haven't impressed beforehand? And I think it's actually a mix of both, and I can tell you why right now. If Matt Rhule's job wasn't on the line, he should have just rolled with Corral this year and seen what he's got. Now we're in a situation where if Baker does good I'm telling you guys, if we get a winning record, Baker's getting re-signed. Just based on our culture, the last 4 years, we've been nothing but a clown show.
That's my fear.
What I'm trying to say is, if Corral was as good as y'all make him out to be, just like Russell Wilson, they would have just done a Sam Darnold versus Corral battle, just like Russell Wilson versus Matt Flynn. And guess what? Russell Wilson beat out Matt Flynn. So what I'm trying to get to is, don't be mad if Baker's the quarterback going into the future, because maybe Matt Corral just isn't as good as people think. And I know he has upside, but it would be nice to see him play. It would be crazy if Corral wins the QB competition, because then it's like, all right, we have our franchise too. But yeah, that's my opinion. Keep pounding, hit the subscribe, hit the like button. The best Panthers podcast on the nation.
Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
So I have to respond to this because, Anthony, I don't know if you're still listening, but that's just flawed logic. There is no way the Carolina Panthers have seen enough of Matt Corral to know what they do or don't have in him. And by the way, Scott Fitterer in his press conference today was talking, or Matt Rhule rather, was talking about the two quarterbacks that were ahead of Russell Wilson when he was drafted. And then he ended up winning his job. So I'm telling you, there is no scenario at all where the coaching staff looked at Matt Corral as a player and said, nah, we don't believe in him. We just don't think he can do all the things that Baker Mayfield can. And even if they believe that for this season, I guarantee you there is no length of time that has passed that lets them think, oh, no, Matt Corral is not it. He hasn't played a football game yet. He's seen no live action. They don't know what they have in Matt Corral until they let him play. Now, maybe Baker Mayfield is the guy and they re-sign him to another contract. I don't know. I think it would take a lot to really have us feel comfortable with the second contract. I think the franchise tag is more likely of the two scenarios. But I don't know, man. No quarterback on this roster excites me even a fifth as much as Matt Corral. From the arm talent, the mobility, the going through his progressions, I'm all aboard Matt Corral.
I agree with you on that part right there, Cody, that they haven't seen enough of him to decide if he's a bust or not. And if you feel like at this point already that he is, and that's a wasted draft pick already. Because I just don't feel that way. Unfortunately, I do feel that Matt Corral may never get that chance to prove in Carolina that he's that guy.
I agree.
I mean, I fear he's gonna, and that's just the way it shakes out sometimes. I really hate that. Now, if that happens, that means that Baker Mayfield is a successful quarterback, which I'm okay with. It sucks we didn't see what we could have gotten out of Corral, but if we have success in Baker Mayfield, I'm okay, and I would like to see him be successful somewhere else. I just don't think we're ever going to get a chance to see him on that level without injury.
I think that Matt Corral needs Baker Mayfield to be successful if we want to see Matt Corral potentially successful in Carolina.
There you go.
And I know that their fear is like, oh, we won't ever get to see Matt Corral because of Baker if he had like crazy success. But I promise you, man, is that if Matt Rhule gets fired and people have even said that like not everybody is even just saying that Scott Fitterer would be completely safe. Like there is a world where some people have content like is that we don't know what would happen if we got a 4 and whatever season and Tepper just loses his mind or some shit like that. I think that would be harder for Matt Corral to pierce through to success in a Carolina Panthers jersey than it would be if maybe we even franchised Baker for another year, maybe signed him to a shorter deal. I really think, though, this is why I wrote the article on CarolinaCatChronicles.com that the Panthers would be wise in releasing Sam Darnold. Is that like, because then let's make this a real competition between two that we believe could be, rather than this 3 who one of them we don't believe who's going to get in the way of the kid and take his snap. So, I mean, I really think that they that's why I was kind of not advocating for the Baker trade, because I was just hoping it would shake out like it was going to shake out in real competition. But I just feel like it's going to be so weird. What happens is that, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, so we'll just leave it here on that, is like what happens if Baker gets hurt and then Sam Darnold comes in? Like, wouldn't it be cool if we were doing really well, Baker got hurt for a couple of games, and then Corral came in and did really well? And actually, I would go here and argue is probably, even if we don't even go down that far, it's the preseason that the problem with the multiple quarterbacks is, because now you got to give reps to Baker, then you're going to give reps to Darnold, and then it's finally we're getting to Corral at the end with all of the scrubs. It would just be better if you just let Matt Corral play the entire preseason. And that's what I'm going to say on that. All right, next call.
Hey, y'all. You know who this is. It's the foam that brings them home. White chocolate espresso.
White chocolate.
I got to say something. Yo, I'm most likely 95% going to FanFest. I know Cody's going. I know CK's going. I know Tony is taking his family and not wanting to take his bastard child with him. But that's cool.
I'm not taking my real
I
kids.
don't know if the bad day is coming. If it is cool.
I'll be there.
I want to know, when we meet up, first things first is we're taking Cody to a strip club. And I want a stripper to sit in his lap and his chair, and I want to watch him drive around with a stripper. I just want to see it. That's the only thing I really want to see at FanFest.
I mean, I'm down, dude. Fucking let's make it happen.
I give a fuck about the Matt Rhule or the band or the fireworks. No. I want to go to Charlotte because I want to see a stripper sit on Cody's lap while he drives around in his wheelchair. That's what I want to see.
I'm down.
I don't care about who's quarterback battles. I don't give a shit. Stripper on Cody.
Which stripper? The real battle is which stripper.
Would you accept if we just had a stripper sit in a grocery cart, holding onto his hair like he's a horse and she's in a carriage, and just like pulling her?
Dude. I mean, hey, look. I'm down. If Kevin's willing to pay to take me to a strip club and get a stripper to take some pictures of her sitting on my lap, hey, she can sit in my lap and we'll see what pops up.
I think what we need is a 2015-esque run where we went 15-0, and Baker Mayfield takes us undefeated all year long. At some point, I wonder what number does it have to be, Cody? If we're 6-0, is it 6-0 that you're all of a sudden a Baker bottom with us? When do you become a Baker bottom? Undefeated. Like if it's 7, I mean, if we're undefeated. And the reason I'm saying this is because once that we get to that, if we got to that number, it used to be, probably still the case, you could go to the strip club in Charlotte and get in for free if you had your ticket stub. So we could just, like, for every win after a certain number, you gotta go. Like, it's gonna, if it worked, what if this happens and then we start out undefeated? It's like we got to keep it up.
So I have to go to a strip club for every game they win.
Yep.
After we're if we're 6-0, if we're 5-0, I think we got to start that. I don't know.
At
what
some
the
point,
number
it's
is.
just going to start to become work for him, though.
Well, you got to do it all. You got to do it all off season if we end 6-9.
You know what Bill Belichick said? Do your job, and that will be Cody's job.
Listen, if that is a part of my job description, I'll do it, dude. If I have to have boobies in my face.
We should do weekly donos, and we have to watch him like give away in singles. Like,
oh, that would be.
You are promoting, sir, is what you're doing. You're promoting.
Yeah,
you know?
We're gonna write it off as a business expense.
Right, exactly. That's my thought.
All right, next call.
What up, C3? The issue. I'm gonna start the conversation off with Shaq. It's plenty of other stories to talk about with training camp and battles position wise. But I just got to start off with Shaq. I never had hate towards Shaq.
he's always been in the shadow and couldn't come to light with TD and Luke retiring. I just don't have love for Shaq anymore. He just took too long to blossom, and he's yet to do it. He hasn't been consistently injury prone, but he's getting there, and he hasn't took that step as far as making it to the Pro Bowl. But I guess when and why didn't we get rid of Shaq? When should we move on from him and take a linebacker that can handle being a captain?
You know, Shaq is a kind of a conundrum for us, is that he's one of those players that we're especially for me, and I'll just be honest, is that I'm harder on him than I need to be. And it's really because I made the mistake of setting my expectations so high for him. You know, he's one of the few players that I bought their jersey before I even saw him play a snap as a Carolina Panther. I've only done that a couple of times, one of those being Cam Newton. You know, is like before they even played a single snap in a Panthers jersey, is like, I'm on this train right here, this bandwagon.
Ride or die, you know?
Yeah. And I thought that Shaq was going to be, he was so billed as such a dynamic, kind of like that he was the Isaiah Simmons pitch player before Isaiah Simmons existed. This guy who was going to be this crazy multi-tool, where the problem is trying to fit, you know, and he had trouble squeezing into the lineup because Thomas Davis had a late career renaissance. I don't know if it's all been his fault, you know, but then, and now he's kind of doing a Thomas Davis in a way. And that is the latter years of the twilight years of his career are the best years of his career. And so hopefully Shaq can continue with that trajectory and win me back over. Next call.
Thoughts on trading for DK Metcalf?
No.
Good night.
Ooh. I want to bring this up before we even talk about that trade, is as we've talked about position battles, we saw the pictures all night long or all day long of people arriving. Some of the things that were on my mind were the people we did not see. And I'm not saying that they weren't there. I haven't done enough research to see, but like, why, you know, we didn't get a bunch of pictures of Robbie Anderson. Why is, you know, all of a sudden would they usher him in the back door? The other guy, the fake cat killer, is he there? The Damian Wilson guy. I
know he fascinates you so much. You want to know so much more about him.
I love him, dude. I love him. I'm rooting for him, man. I was like, we need him when we play the Bengals. We got to kill those cats. As long as he don't kill our cat. We need to really kill the cats, not fake kill a cat. But you know, sometimes the story isn't what people are talking about, but what they're not talking about, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And really, I didn't see anything about Robbie Anderson coming out today. You know, it's like I didn't see that. I didn't see any big touting of the linebackers. I'm trying to think of any. And you know what? I didn't see any DBs other than Jeremy Chin.
I saw Dante Jackson. He's in the thumbnail there.
Oh, yeah, he is. You're right.
I also saw I did see JC Horn in one of their videos about the dorm. Dante was there as well in that one. I don't know who that other kid was. Was that Barno or somebody?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not entirely. A lot of the guys I don't like. A lot of the lower on the depth chart guys,
facially recognize. Yeah,
I can't recognize their face or anything. I'll say this: like DK Metcalf, you're gonna have to pay that guy soon, right? Like he just was,
and he's gonna cost more than I think
that was
I'd be
the
willing
big
to
conversation
trade.
Around him. I love him as a receiver. Like I love the idea of him.
He's
being
pretty good.
Yeah, he's like a light Megatron. You know, he's not quite the player of a Megatron, but he's built in the same vein. You can do a lot of the same things with him that you could have done with the Megatron. I mean, I don't know. I think at this point it would be a little too resource rich. But
for us, is that the addition we need the most, though? You know, that would be more my question is not about DK Metcalf as a player. Is wide receiver group our weakest position? Is that where we need to be bolstering? And if anything, like I'm kind of hoping Terrace Marshall Jr. is going to step into a role of that big body receiver that does those types of things. So if the question is we need a big body receiver who's more of an end zone threat, then certainly DK Metcalf could be part of that. But don't you think that maybe addition on the defensive line or in the linebacker room would be a more valuable addition than a wide receiver?
If you could unload Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson for DJ Metcalf and get rid of those two salaries, wouldn't you be able to afford to pay DJ Metcalf?
Well, yeah, but then that's going to be bigger than both of them.
I mean, I don't know. What's both of theirs together? Both of theirs together is what, 32 million?
18 and 15, 28. It's
18
a lot.
18 and 15 is 33.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like up there.
I mean, that's
actually
a lot of
decent. That's a decent kind of proposition, but it just doesn't seem like the Seahawks are interested in the quarterback.
No.
I mean, they would have gone after Baker right now. They would have gone after Baker. It would have been a better deal for them to go after Baker than it would to go after Sam Darnold. They only have Locke, Drew Lock, and the old man,
Geno Smith, right?
Geno Smith.
Yeah.
All right. Last call of the night.
Hey guys, it's the growl that makes him howl, aka Joey the Blind Panther. And I wanted to ask y'all a question. No one's been talking about old Walker Wonder. What do you think is going to happen to him? Do you think he's going to get cut like during training camp if he's not cut already? You think he's going to get cut during preseason? Honestly, I think either him or Darnold is going to get cut during preseason. Because, Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. Right. We know he kicks ass during training camp and practice when it doesn't matter, but he sucks ass during games when it does matter. So there's no telling what they're going to think about him because he's probably going to fool everyone. Anyway, guys. Oh, and make sure you play my call from last week. I went into a lot of stuff about David Tepper that I really want you guys to hear. Anyway, guys. Wow.
Love it.
Speechless.
Yeah. I mean, like here is that I keep hearing people say put PJ on the practice squad, some things like that. And but like I think he's probably hitting that point in his career. He's played enough games and had enough seasons where he's not eligible for the practice squad. There's at some point. I guess for me is that I think you're going to end up. There's a chance that I believe that PJ Walker is going to be cut probably after the final preseason game because you're going to want that body there for that time. Him and Matt Corral probably do most of it. There might be a world where him and Sam Darnold are cut together, but I really think that they're leaning towards Baker, Darnold, and Corral being three quarterbacks on the roster this year and just having to deal with it. There's no real financial benefit to cutting Sam Darnold. The only thing would be just making a clear distinction of Mayfield and the pathway for Corral if in case Mayfield gets hurt. But I think they're going to probably be a little too fearful if Mayfield has to go down for a game or something that maybe they're not ready to put it in Corral's hands and they don't want to lose the season out. So they're going to keep Darnold around. I don't know. It says new NFL role. Dante's Toe says 4 veterans allowed on the practice squad. So I guess there's no limits anymore when you say veterans, because there was a point where it was just like once you played a certain amount of games. So they may have adjusted. Yeah, they may have. But here's the thing is if you're on the practice squad, who really cares? You know what I'm saying? Anybody can poach you at any time. That's basically as close to getting cut. I mean, it's like getting cut.
Mm-hmm. That causes me to ask you a question. Is Ted Ginn retired now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure if he had officially done it or not.
He is. All right. Yeah. I think this is the call, Joey.
Hey, guys. It's the growl that makes him howl, a.k.a. Joey the Blind Panther. Awesome intro, by the way. I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about when it comes to Baker Mayfield and Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo, when he was head coach of the Giants, benched Eli Manning.
This is not it. We played this one last week.
Straight up benched him.
Sorry, I don't know. I'm gonna have to find it, man. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to play it. I'll play it next week, Joey. We'll find it. Tell me I think it was a Saturday call. Okay. What are your thoughts, guys? Any other final points? I mean, we got to do our ice up picks and some different things. This training camp starts tomorrow. Really, like you said, Cody, I think you've said it great for a long time, is that everybody's got something to prove. Not only in this training camp, in this preseason and this season.
Tomorrow is going to be interesting. We're finally going to start to see get some news about action from the practice field. Yeah, reps. That'll be fun. We're going to try and do a beat check tomorrow night. We've got to get someone to confirm to do it with us first.
Yeah, try getting Tim Jenkins. He's moving right now. Ooh, I got one other.
Yeah, we're going to continue to try and get some people. And maybe even if we don't have a guest, maybe we can stop by and do like 30 minutes or something and just talk about
just
the
go
day
over the highlights.
Yeah,
headline.
For sure. I'm down for that. I'm 100%. And guys, I'm just happy, man. Like Panthers football is back. It's it's the type of thing that makes you go to therapy, right? All year last year, we were having a real bad time with the Carolina Panthers, and then we get an off season away from them. And dude, we're missing them again, man. We're some gluttons for punishment. We want back in this thing. But like Greg said earlier, I think that we have many, many reasons to be hopeful that this is going to be a much improved football team this year, regardless of whatever you think about Matt Rhule or Baker Mayfield or whatever. I feel there's enough pieces on our team, on the coaching staff, that the Carolina Panthers should take a reasonable jump forward. So I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. I'm happy, excited. I'm ready that football is almost here, boys. Almost here.
Incredible.
I want to plug this is send me a message on Twitter at @cat_chronicles and my DM me, or you can email me at carolinacatchronicles@gmail.com, or you could even message at DYLeehan. So it's DYLEEHAN. And he wants to start, one of the listeners of our show wants to start a C3 fantasy football league. I've told him that I'll secure 2 spots for C3, like for our panel. So I'm going to pay for two entries for us.
I'll pay for me. He already talked to me. Yeah. I'm in it. Yeah.
Okay. And then, and he wants to get 12 to 14 players. So it'll be a deep league, which I like a deep league. It makes it, I mean, I know the other ones are high scoring and fun, but it will be difficult, but it's fun. We haven't decided on a buy-in yet. It's kind of going to be a collective decision made by the people who are interested. He said between $25 and $50. And it's a half-point PPR league. But this is, a way, if you're interested in joining a league of C3 fans and part of the C3 family, we have the C3 Fantasy Football Challenge we've done in the past. We've been waiting for COVID to kind of shovel out and some different things. We'll probably bring that back in the future. But this will be a great thing to do. It'll be a good time for us to have. So if you guys are interested, message me on Twitter, or you can hit me up at Gmail, carolinacatchronicles@gmail.com. I'll pass the info along. That's it, really. I mean, like I said, camp tomorrow. Yeah, we'll get back. We got to get back and look over the early, what happened. We'll do a short show tomorrow night as well. It's going to be this is the time we're going to do a lot of content over the next few weeks, and really over the next 6 months going forward. So be ready. And somebody said, I can't believe y'all are still live. Respect. Not only on that, wait until we actually have a fucking game to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow.
Dude, this season, y'all are going to be in for some long Tuesday nights.
We got some changes in our format coming in the future in the post game. So be looking forward to some of those things. We got some cool stuff rolling out. Cody, let's finish up the show with the longest running segment on the C3 Panthers podcast. Not only were the longest running Panthers podcast, we're literally the longest Panthers podcast each time we go live.
Oh, yeah.
And then
And
finally,
most consistent.
yes. And then we got the longest running segment of any podcast, the Ice Up segment, where we tell some fools to ice up, toughen up, to get it together.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
That's right. It's time for us to ice up some fools. It's our homage to Steve Smith, where we tell someone ice up, toughen up to get it together. Everyone is fair game, from 12-year-old kids in Oklahoma to the president of the United States. No one's iced up the Pope just yet, I don't think. So that's and no one's iced up God yet. I'm not walking into those waters. I'll let somebody else walk into those waters, but mine is definitely in that arena tonight. My ice up pick, I know, dangerous. Anytime you start talking about, all right, so I'm gonna ice up. It's kind of hard to explain like how I want to conduct this ice up pick.
Tony's Catholic, by the way, so don't get too mad.
Yeah, so like actually I'll say this is that I'm icing up people who make up like terminology kind of. This guy Bishop Whitehead, who is hold on, let me get all of his
big white
Bishop Whitehead. This is like I think we need to call him a pastor. Esther Whitehead, because hold on, like where is his dang I should have had this pulled up. So this guy, he is his name is Bishop Whitehead, and he runs a church in New York, and it's called Leadership of Tomorrow International Ministries. He calls himself Chief Apostle and Bishop. I would just say this is like, to be a bishop, you have to oversee like a organization of ministers and priests. So I just feel like the casual use of bishop here is incorrect. But the reason this guy is on my radar is because this story comes up, and you can go and watch this. This guy, his church, he and his church were robbed during their service. 4 armed gunmen come into their church this past week and robbed them, and differing accounts. I've read $400,000 worth of jewelry to $1 million worth of stuff was stolen. The guy lays down. He's like, "Everybody get down." He goes, "They were coming for me." He keeps saying, "They were coming for me. They were coming for me." And then he talks about how he tried to chase him out and chase him, but he forgot his keys. But the real problem about this, or it's not even a problem, I don't even really care about this guy nicing up the fake terminology of bishop here, is that he negotiated a like he was like called out to be one of these like so somebody was like an armed hostage situation, and he came out there and tried to like settle it down. He was like the political guy, the activist in his community between the police, like this liaison. But he was wearing a $2,500 Versace jacket and belt when he did this. So Bishop Whitehead, Mr. named himself a bishop. Business is good, bro. They got robbed for $1 million worth of jewelry. You know what? I bet you he is super Christian. I bet you he's awesome. Everything sounds really shady about this whole story, and I'm not the only person that. But what is it they call it? The success gospel. What is it where you get the? It's what Joel Osteen preaches.
Prosperity gospel.
Prosperity, yeah, prosperity gospel, living well with leaders of ministries tomorrow, Bishop Whitehead, or I would just say Chief Apostle, or how about Pastor Whitehead, Versace Whitehead? Man, dude got popped. Ice up.
Ice up. So I'll go first or second because mine's short. There's like a trend of people doing workout exercises with a bunch of extra workout equipment and using them in the ways that they're not supposed to be using them. So basically, when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And that's basically what my ice up pick is tonight. You can all tell already that this is probably going to go swimmingly.
Oh my goodness.
The whole thing just
not even
falls
as
backwards.
bad as it could have been.
Yeah, it could have
Yeah,
been
I
way
know.
worse than that.
But like, what do you think that you're going to do here? That your body is just going to stay so straight that you're going to be able to lift all that shit? Dude, you deserve
Look at
every
how
bad
skinny
thing
the
to happen.
motherfucker is, too.
Yeah, he's not very big, dude. So, to that idiot, ice up, son.
All right. Who's next?
Mine's not a bad one, honestly. I just want to ice up the world because I don't know if you guys saw the arrival of Aaron Rodgers to his training camp today.
You ice up that.
I'm
It's like
just
the best thing ever.
No, I'm saying, yeah, I'm icing up the world because we're all like literally just hot at this point in time from that. Like the temperature in the entire country. Like you might want to just make sure your mom has not left her dad by the time that he gets home and he sees that she's been watching NFL Network and watching his arrival. Dude, like if you haven't seen it, I don't have it. I haven't sent it to the boys. I'm sure you guys can do it. I'm sure everybody can Google it. And the Green Bay Packers played into this so well, but there was a slow motion video of Aaron Rodgers arriving to camp in a wife beater with his Con Air haircut with the beard, and he looks identical to Nicolas Cage, and it's unbelievable. And
You mean
quite
Cameron
honestly,
Poe.
yeah, Cameron Poe. My apologies. Everybody's saying, like, I swear to God, if he doesn't at least at some point during training camp say, "Put the bunny back in the box."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude, and he walks
that's
up like he
hilarious.
knows. Like, look at this. He knows. He's just like, I mean, I'm kind of hot for him at this point. Like, I think honestly, he just drops his bag. Like,
The
what's
bag,
cooler than
the
that?
bag drop. I want to know that. He's like, hey, assholes, pick
Somebody
up my
carry
bag
that for me. Yeah.
Nick Cage, the overacting Olympian of the like, he overacts everything. I like
Yeah.
Nick Cage and I love Con Air. And it's like
It's a great
kind of
movie.
do you remember the accent he had in that where he had the Southern accent?
Mm-hmm.
He was a Southern Ranger, Army Ranger. Oh, that shit was awesome. Go ahead. To people who aren't in love with Cameron Poe,
No, just everybody whose temperature rose about 10 degrees after watching this. I
know mine did. It was just sexy. All right, Greg.
Okay, mine's just simple. It's a funny story I heard the other day. I don't have any visuals for it. So, everybody a pet owner? Like, anybody who's a pet owner, you feel like you could recognize your pets, when you pick them up, drop them off at the vet or whatever. Yeah. Sometimes pets get mixed up, and I realize that this is a story of pets getting mixed up, like 2 German Shepherds, which I can admit I've had German Shepherds before, but German Shepherds do, of all dogs, look a lot alike sometimes. This lady had the dog for 4 months.
And it wasn't her dog.
Before they realized it wasn't her dog, okay?
Oh.
And it's funny because, like, I'm reading through this article, and I've heard this a few times on different radio shows and everything, and everybody talks about this lady. But I'm not going to ice her up. I'm going to ice up the other person who had the dogs because guess what? They didn't realize it for 4 months either, but nobody's talking about them in all these articles. They were both stupid. I don't want to say stupid. They both made a dumb mistake. I just feel like it's easy to recognize your dog. After a few days, I feel like you would know your dog's not there, like different.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like the dog would give off signs to know. Yeah, dogs have enough personality. You would know. Yeah. But I'm icing up the other person that none of these articles are icing up. I'm icing up them for not noticing as well because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid. Like how dumb do you have to be to not recognize your animal for that long? Come on, dude.
One more quick one here is that Antonio Brown's dance.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh, why is it gonna keep doing that? Look at this dance from Antonio Brown.
StreamYard's weird now whenever you try and like enlarge stuff, I find. What?
He does this windshield wiper like this. It's so bad.
I hope he can get paid for it because.
Anyway, go look at the concert that Antonio Brown put on. That one's a big one. That one is wild. All right, that's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. You can call into the show at 252-228-5098. We'll be here tomorrow night with a beat check. We're still nailing down the time, trying to nail down a guest, hopefully. It's tough to get the beat writers on the first day of camp. They're but guess who will be here anyway? We will, monitoring all the stories. So it'll be around 8 or 8:30 tomorrow night. We'll get something out to you guys and talk about the first day of camp. You can follow me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Don't forget to message me if you want in on that fantasy football league. Go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Check out the latest stories. And if you really just want to support it, just go there. Don't even read the story. Just click an ad. And that'll give me 50 cents. So, hey, if you don't want to donate to the show, just click an ad. That would be cool. And that's about it. Check us out on TikTok, all the other things. Cody Lashney, how can they get after you?
Yeah, find me at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. I'm still doing work at drafttech.com. You can check that out. And as always, every Friday at 7 p.m., that's your opportunity to be a part of the C3 Friday free-for-all. You can come and be on the show, join via StreamYard. It's a good time, man. I try and make sure everybody gets their opinions heard and voiced. It's a good time, man. I've got my own little cult following of followers that, are starting to believe some of the stuff that I'm putting down. So, yeah, man, join the Friday free-for-all every Friday at 7 p.m. And that's it, bro.
CK?
First, I want to tell the chat to keep an eye out on our socials at Codizzle Allen, at cat_chronicles, because there is a potential we're going to be in Wofford on Saturday. I'm trying to convince the professor to get a babysitter. He's going to try to be securing one. And that's going to be for their Back Together Saturday. So it should be a pretty big event if you guys are interested in coming out and just seeing what's up. Other than that, I'll be back here Tuesday, but you can find me on all the social medias at Codizzle Allen. That's Facebook, Twitter, the TikTokies, the Instagrams, all those locations. So go shoot your boy a follow, and if you like what you see, share everything you see.
And the Bat Daddy.
You can find me at the Bat Daddy 52 on Twitter is my personal handle. Check out my other show. It is Geeks Chasing Squirrels Across the Multiverse. We're talking about San Diego Comic-Con this week, GalaxyCon in Raleigh this weekend, and possibly Stranger Things Season 1. It's going to be a fun show. We go live Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Audio drops Mondays or Tuesdays on any podcatcher of your choice. So,
fantastic stuff. Cody, take us out of here.
Until next time, C3 Panther Nation, keep pounding.